Talented team, really good team. We know how good they are. They beat us last year in our house on Christmas. These are the things we'll hear from Andy Reid, and we'll see which players will be there as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810. Text line to be a part of the show today. We'll talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up later on in the show at 11 o'clock hour. So an hour from now, we'll talk with Cynthia. We will hang out with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Typically on a Thursday, we talk with them, but I've decided to take tomorrow off. I told the people around, I'm not coming in. I'm taking tomorrow off. But Matt Lane will join us today at noon. We'll talk with him about this Chiefs matchup with the Raiders, what he has seen the last couple of weeks since we've talked to him. And, of course, as I said, we'll hear from the Chiefs press conferences. Lee Sterling will get you ready for the weekend of betting, Thanksgiving, the big college football weekend as well, Friday and on into the weekend. That comes up later on this hour, about 10:45 or so. Lee Sterling, Todd Lebo, get you ready for the weekend with maybe a little more rooting interest. 913-912-4810, a lot of stuff to get into. Let's get into the show. We start with the Kansas Jayhawks, the Fighting Bill Selfs, as they knocked off the Duke Blue Devils last night. And it wasn't a good night for KU. I thought it was a great night for KU, in fact. I didn't know what to expect from the game because KU is a much more experienced team. You've got a 24-year-old going up against, a 17-year-old. Not directly, but you got a 17-year-old on the court and a 24-year-old on the court. You don't see that very often in college basketball, but Hunter Dickinson being an older individual, DeJuan Harris being an older individual, and, of course, Cooper Flagg being somebody who graduated early, reclassified, and is a 17-year-old, even though his twin brother's still in high school. It's just odd. It's odd from that standpoint. Like, one is reclassifying and playing pro ball, it's kind of pro now. It's NIL. Semi-pro, playing pro Duke ball. It's legal now to play pro ball for Duke,
He was running up and down the court with Team USA in the summer in the Olympic team.
You're not wrong about that, and playing, great basketball, and and now it's legal to play pro for Duke, as opposed to when Zion went to Duke for the Brotherhood. That's right. He was going to Clemson and wanted a bunch of money to go to Clemson, but choosing Duke, he turned down all the money because of the Brotherhood. That's probably what happened. But KU wins last night, a great night, I thought, for the Kansas Jayhawks. And, again, I didn't know what to think. I know that, the line was there. Duke was the favorite. And I thought, by the way that Duke played against Kentucky on the national stage when they were leading and controlled most of that game and then did not finish, I thought there would be some lessons to take away from that with Duke. And, Kansas is a better team than Kentucky, more talented team than Kentucky, more experienced team than Kentucky, have played together. So I thought it would be back and forth, but I thought late in the game we might see some lessons learned and some better play from Duke. So I understood the line to a degree. I can also understand why KU came out with their hair on fire at the beginning of the game. Because according to DeJuan Harris after the game, he could not repeat what Bill Self told them in the locker room pregame speech. I wish he could. I wish there was audio of that. Because they were talking about being the underdogs.
Where's CBS when you need them?
I mean, right? You got from Andy
Reid, maybe the most close to the guard guy that we have left in the NFL.
Don't hang your heads, guys. I would have loved to hear how Bill Self relayed the information of you guys should be pissed off because you're the number one team in the land, you're undefeated, and you're underdogs. They're favored. You're the underdog in this game. And essentially that was the message. As DeJuan Harris said, I can't repeat the things that he told us. Let's just say that we were ready to run through a brick wall. Let's just say that we knew that we were the underdogs in this game. Let's just say that we knew we were the number one team in America and people were picking them to win. And DeJuan Harris saying, oh yeah, we knew. We see everything. Which I love hearing players actually say that, we see everything. We're aware of those things. So not a surprise looking back now and hearing those things that KU came out the way that they did with the defensive intensity, punched Duke in the mouth. Duke wasn't ready. to get blitzed like that. And I know Seth Greenberg used the term blitz over and over last night with the halftime and how they guarded Cooper Flagg and how they did sort of blitz on the on the screen and roll on the two-man game. Anytime Cooper Flagg got in and close to the lane, they had a great game plan for him. But it felt like overall it was just a tidal wave at the beginning when Kansas went on that run and defensively getting stops and getting turnovers and getting out and running and knocking down buckets and threes and ones along the way. Like, that was an avalanche. And they go up by 13 points, and they win by 3. I don't know what the final score is if they go up by 5. If KU is favored by 1.5 points in this game, does Duke win? I don't know. I have no idea. But I know that what we hear from the players after the game is over, that they were ready to run through a brick wall when they went out there because of the things that were said in the locker room in the pregame speech. I would also love to know how often Bill Self gives one of those, because you can't give one of those every game. You know, in Major League Baseball, it's always like you can't be a rah-rah manager. You know, it's 162. You know, football, you can do that. You can get them crazy in the locker room. You know, it's once a week. I don't think Andy Reid does that. I think they go about their business. College football, I think, does that. We've heard Kirby Smart and his pregame speech before the national championship game a couple of years ago, and we had to bleep out every other word. So I don't know how often that happens, but clearly it was used at the right time for Bill Self. But it was a great night last night, winning 75-72 for a number of different reasons. We'll get into the Hunter Dickinson discussion here in just a little bit. But my takeaway from the game was on that night, last night, when the number 1 pick in the land was playing in Cooper Flagg, the best prospect in America, playing on the court in Cooper Flagg, the best player on the court last night in that specific 40-minute game was KJ Adams. He was unbelievable. And he's such an easy guy to root for. He's pretty low-key. Great story about his mom. Now a year passed since she passed. But what I love about watching somebody like him play is that he impacts so much of the game without scoring. Those are great basketball players, man. Those are the guys like somebody can go out there and drop 25 and you're like, yeah, that guy had the best game. He was the best player on the floor because he was knocking down threes. Was he, though? Because how many did he allow? It's like Manny Ramirez, drive in more than you let in. Like, oh, he knocked down 2 threes. Yeah, and he got beat for 12 points in the game. So he was -6 when he was guarding his man and what he presented offensively. Where you've got KJ Adams, that we saw 2 years ago can guard 1 through 5, because he had to when he was playing the 5. Now, because they've got Flo and they've got Hunter, he can switch off and guard 1 through 4. But going into that game, Bill Self looks at KJ Adams and says, you got Cooper Flagg. You got the number 1 pick in the draft, man. And Cooper Flagg took 2 shots in the first half. Now, I like Cooper Flagg's game because he's not just a, scorer like Dalton Knecht at Tennessee. They there's some resemblance of Dalton Knecht and how he's like, yeah, but Dalton Knecht was a scorer. He was a shot maker. He was a scorer. And we see that with the Lakers now. Cooper Flagg is a guy that doesn't have to score to impact the game. He rebounds, he gets assists, he sets other guys up, he makes the right play for the most part. He's had a couple of possessions he'd like back in these late games against Kentucky and Kansas. Certainly, he'll learn from that. Again, he's 17. I think Duke's going to be a pretty dangerous team in March, and we might see this rematch in March. I would love to see the rematch in March. It'd be great. But what KJ Adams did, it wasn't just the 2 shot attempts for Cooper Flagg. It was that he didn't get a chance to make much of an impact overall. It was pre-Cooper Flagg getting the ball, moving him off his spot, bodying him, being a stronger, tougher player. That's work. It's not just my guy has the ball, now I'm going to work hard. Like KJ Adams was working his butt off in the first half. A little bit like, when Nick Collison had to guard Melo in the national championship game. And then he missed free throws late in the game, and it was like, oh, Nick Collison can't hit free throws. Yeah, man, he's toast. He's been chasing Carmelo around. Yeah, he missed some free throws, but what did he do during the game to limit what Carmelo Anthony's impact could have been? But KJ Adams was scoring in the second half. He had his 8 points. He was fine from that standpoint. But to me, he had the best game. So maybe the best player on the floor might be Cooper Flagg, as in like overall talent and ability and NBA prospects. But last night in those 40 minutes, the guy playing the best and impacting the game the most to me was KJ Adams. And I think after him was DeJuan Harris. And Duke is the one with, all of the NBA prospects there. But that's also experience and playing together and guys being around for a while. KJ Adams ending up with 3 assists, had those jumpers in the lane. But it was his defense on Cooper Flagg and how he played made the biggest impact in that game. And DeJuan Harris with his 14 points and 9 assists and setting guys up and having the dribble, jump in the air, find Rylan Griffin. KU down by 2. Rylan Griffin hits the 3. They go up 1, and they never gave up. They never trailed again. That was the last time they trailed in that game, was when DeJuan Harris drove the lane, went underneath, jumped, was out of bounds in the air, wasn't out of bounds, but jumped and found Rylan Griffin, who had a step back because he had to step back to the three-point line and then knock down the shot. KU didn't trail again after that point. DeJuan Harris with his 14 points, 9 assists, his defense, setting guys up. They were awesome. And finally, Badunga playing the final 10.5 minutes when Hunter Dickinson got ejected. In those final 10.5 minutes, 4 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal. 2 offensive rebounds, by the way, for Flo in that game. As a quick aside, Brian Haney, if you don't adopt the when Badunga has a big, two-handed slam, you got to drop the Badunga dunk. And KU's got a Badunga dunk. I mean, come on, man. It's right there. It's waiting for you. Honky-tonk, Badunga dunk. That's what KU's got. But he's out there, and he played phenomenal basketball in the final 10.5 minutes when Hunter Dickinson went out, and he played every single second the rest of the way. He never came off the floor. Badunga came in, never left. Stayed out there, played good basketball, grew up a lot, and that's a big thing to move forward with for KU. That when Hunter Dickinson wasn't there against one of the best teams in America, you had a 2-point lead with 10.5 minutes to go against an incredibly talented team and Duke that were the favorites in the game, and Hunter Dickinson, the All-American, is out of the game with 10.5 minutes to go, and you got a freshman in there. What do? You go and win. You outscore them by 1 the rest of the way. They won by 1 without Hunter Dickinson on the floor in the final 10.5 minutes. They were up by 2. They win by 3 in that game. And I do want to send a big shout out to Hunter Dickinson. I do appreciate Hunter Dickinson getting ejected because when he got ejected, KU was up by 2, 10.5 minutes to go. And I went to DraftKings. I'm like, what's the line right now? Like, they're up 2. I've been leading almost this entire game. Like, what's the line right now? And that thing quickly started moving up after Hunter Dickinson got ejected. And it got to like KU plus 4.5. They were up 2. But the money line was KU plus 280 to win. And I'm like, hold on. I know Hunter Dickinson ain't out there. But I got a team in KU that's up by 2. That DeJuan Harris is still out there. KJ Adams is still out there playing awesome basketball. Zeke Mayo was knocking down shots. Storr was knocking down shots. Rylan Griffin, terrible decision before half. Didn't know how much you'd get from him. But I'm like, I get a more experienced team, and I get Bill Self coaching this team down the stretch over Jon Scheyer? Yeah, I'll go ahead and play the plus 280 and take a chance on the case. So thank you, Hunter Dickinson, for getting ejected because, it was profitable.
Back in the day, KU's always been this way where you can do that. And then also it's like Alabama football, like when Saban was rolling, or Belichick and the Patriots when they were rolling. Like, if they're down at half, they're always going to get real close to even. And Chiefs right now. The Chiefs are a perfect example.
Yeah.
How many times do you look at the line when the Chiefs, and they're going to win the game, but it's sitting right there at like minus 150 or minus 1, even just close in the 100s.
Also, how is it no matter who coaches at KU and no matter who plays for KU, coming out of half, they always go on like an 8-0 run? Like, how does that happen? It doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter where the game is at, who's wearing a KU jersey, or who's coaching. It's just like you show up in Lawrence, and coming out of half, you're going to go on like an 8-0, 10-0 run. And it's like you got to watch that storm from KU to start the second half. It's like every single game. And as a guy that's watched Missouri a lot, it's like, oh, you got to just survive the next 4 minutes out of a half. You didn't survive it, did you? No, we did not. We did not survive those 4 minutes. It was a blitz, as Seth Greenberg kept saying last night, and how they defended Cooper Flagg.
I mean, even Fran Fraschilla was saying all night that this is a lesson for this young Duke team that you're going to have to play physical at some point.
Yep. And Kentucky wasn't necessarily physical with them. I think Duke made a lot of mistakes there late in that game against Kentucky.
Kentucky was like the Chiefs. They're just sitting there waiting for the other team to make all the mistakes.
They're an older team, experienced.
Yep.
They got players. They were incredibly motivated. That was the first time in the big lights for, those players for Duke.
Mark Pope as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but
for Duke, yeah, my bad.
But I mean, for Kentucky, Mark Pope, yes, being there, his first sort of audition to be able to do that, and a number of guys that have played at different colleges, but they've played in college, and you got a bunch of guys that the lights are on for the first time in that environment. All right, let's see what you do. That's why I thought, I understood to a degree. I didn't play the line because I had no idea how the game was going to play out. I didn't touch the KU or Duke until Hunter Dickinson got ejected. Then I decided, all right, I'm going to take my chances with a Bill Self-coached team. with these guys. I'm sorry, is DeJuan Harris still playing? Is KJ Adams still playing? Like, they didn't lose everybody, right? And I thought really, like, they weren't going up against Zach Edey. You know what I mean? Like, Duke isn't necessarily, like, they're a tall team overall. So they're one of the tallest teams in America, if not the tallest team, because, like, their two guard is 6'10". Like, that's why, because Cooper Flagg's 6'10", but they don't have, like, their freshman 7'2". Maluacha, I think is his name. But he doesn't play much, right? But again, you're not going up against Zach Edey, so with Hunter Dickinson out of the game, I like the chances there. All right, let's talk about Hunter Dickinson. Let's talk about the flagrant 2. What I wrote down last night as I'm watching the game, as I'm watching it, I'm like, I think that's intentional. I think there's a reputational thing here. I didn't know what they were going to call. I'm just taking notes before the fact. So it's not a, here's what the call is, here's my reaction to it.
The longer they took, the more I thought they were going to send him.
Yeah, I'm looking, I'm like, all right, it's taken a while. So I think it's going to be a flagrant 1. But on my notes, I said, pull it up just so I get the exact wording. So on the notes, I said, pretty sure it's at least flagrant 1. The foot connecting with the head may move it up to a flagrant 2. Not sure in this level of a game the refs would do that. That was my thought process at the time. I thought there was a chance it could be flagrant 2 because if the foot connected with the shoulder, then I think it'd be flagrant 1.
If the officials are going back and looking at it, they're probably adopting that mindset.
Yeah. And so it's like foot hits the shoulder, flagrant 1. Foot hits the head. There's a reputational thing here with Hunter Dickinson, even when he was at Michigan. And when it was a flagrant 2, I took a note. I said Lifetime Achievement Award. I think that's what that was for Hunter Dickinson last night. I think that was one of those lifetime achievement that, look, if people watching know the reputation for Hunter Dickinson, the officials know the reputation for Hunter Dickinson. And a little bit earlier when they never showed the replay of the sort of the elbow for Hunter Dickinson at the top of the key. I thought it was below the neck live. I didn't think it was anything. The Duke bench went crazy because every bench is going to go crazy when it looks like that, especially when the defender, flails backwards.
And if the defender is trying to get low to
and
own
he's
that
7'2",
and he's 7'2", yes, you're going to catch an elbow.
The guy
in the
who's
face.
dribbling is 7'2".
You're trying to get a lower base than him so you can occupy that space.
Yes, exactly. I didn't think there was much to that, but I think that coupled with then a couple of minutes later, that happens, and the reputation for Hunter Dickinson, I understood why it was flagrant 2. I was fine with flagrant 1. I was fine either way. I just didn't think there was a chance that he was going to get a flagrant 2 in that game, in that moment. I didn't think the refs would do that. Quite frankly, I didn't think the refs would have the stones to do that. I think it would have been very easy to say flagrant 1. We don't know if it was intentional or not. so we're going to go flagrant one. I would have been pissed, upset from a basketball fan standpoint if that was KJ Adams and they gave him a flagrant 2. Because KJ Adams, and again, obviously you guys listening to me talk about that game, you know how much I love watching KJ Adams play. KJ Adams is one of the toughest, most physical players on the floor that I've never seen anything extracurricular or even close to thinking that, well, was that a little cheap? Was that a little, did that elbow fly on purpose? Did that foot slide there and sort of trip him on purpose? I've never had anything like that with KJ Adams. So if that happened with KJ Adams, I would immediately give benefit of the doubt. I would say, one, I'm going to give him a flagrant 1 on the off chance it was intentional. But I'm not going to give him a flagrant 2 on the off chance it was unintentional. And reputation of KJ Adams. But with Hunter Dickinson, I had no problem doing that. And if you don't want the reputation, then stop living up to the reputation. That would be the part that I would say for Hunter Dickinson. And that's, whether that's fair or not, it's his reality in college basketball moving forward. Let's hear from Bill Self. He was asked specifically about that play and what are his thoughts on Hunter Dickinson and the flagrant 2.
I saw it on the screen. You know, I couldn't find the score anywhere the whole night, but I was able to see that on the screen. But I thought it was a good call. I thought the flagrant 2 may have been a little severe. I thought it was definitely a flagrant 1. It's a good lesson to learn. And the best thing about Hunter not being in the game was that Flory was. So we're going to look at it as positive. But I didn't think at the moment, nor now, did I feel like it warranted a level 2. But I do think it needed to be called. And then, in my opinion, it's probably a coin flip whether it's a level 1 or level 2.
I think that's a great way of presenting it. And you got the head coach who's there fighting for his player. That it was level 1. I still don't think it was level 2, but it's a coin flip. And by the way, if it's a coin flip, reputation and past instances come in. Whether that's fair or not for that specific situation. Because of his reputation, my immediate thought was that was intentional. Now, he may sit there and hand to God, and in his heart he knows, and he's the only one in his heart that would know, like, man, that was so unintentional, dude. And that would suck if that was the case. But if you don't want to be graded on a curve, then get off the curve. You know what I mean? Like, don't play on the curve. But Bill Self is absolutely right. They won the game, and that's why I said it was a great night for KU. It wasn't just a good night, it was a great night. And Bill Self saying, you learn a lesson, all right? And Hunter Dickinson can learn that lesson. You can play on the edge without going a little bit over. KJ Adams does that all the time. One of the most physical players in America. One of the best defensive players in America. Defensive, first-team All-American. First-team All-Defensive team in college basketball this year should be KJ Adams. Maybe Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He should get that much respect. And I've never seen anything that was like, oh, maybe. Like and I know from KU fans, I saw it last night, like, no way that was intentional or whatever. It can't be a flagrant 2. I would say, if I told you that Duke and Kansas were playing last night, and there was a player that had sort of a reputation for maybe going over the line a little bit, and then on the ground, it looked questionable and maybe intentional that the foot hit the face, and his name was Grayson Allen, I think you would immediately go, hell yeah, that was intentional. Hell yeah, that was intentional.
That was actually the name I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Like that. But that's, whether KU fans like it or not, that was the reputation with Hunter Dickinson, and he had it at Michigan too. It's not a KU thing.
The guy is talking bleep every shot he makes and doing the too small and everything. He's a heel.
If he plays, exactly.
He's a wrestling villain.
If he plays for your team, you'll love it. Believe me, I'll take all the good and the bad if he played for Mizzou or Northwest Missouri State. Boy, he would dominate at Northwest. I mean, I know he dominates already, but you get the point. That guy's a walking 30-30 at Division II right now. Come on, who wants to be 15-15?
He's a 50-50 at my school.
I mean, who wants to be 15-15 and at KU and the number one team in the land? Well, you could be 30-30. Or you could be 30 points, 30 rebounds a night, man. Come on. Wilt. Let's go. Let's show what Wilt was able to do. But, yeah, you take the good with the bad. If you're KU, you take the guy who can get you 15 and 15 every single night. And by getting you 15 and 15, I think he has to play at that level. Because when he's not at that level, I think length sometimes bothers Hunter Dickinson because he's so used to being taller than everybody else. So he doesn't very often get length that goes up against him. And if he's sort of being bullied isn't the right word, but matched, I think he can get out of his own game. So if Hunter Dickinson's going to be an All-American, I do think you're going to get the too small. You're going to get the talking trash going down the court because that's how you're getting 100% Hunter Dickinson. You're getting 100% KJ Adams no matter what, no matter night, whatever. He's just a different ball player. He's a different mindset. One of the best in America. Easy to root for no matter who you root for. You know, and I, for one, appreciate Hunter Dickinson. My wallet appreciates Hunter Dickinson. And I appreciate, for whatever reason, the book's overreacting to Hunter Dickinson leaving the game and not recognizing that Bill Self's better than John Shire. The two best players on the floor that night were still playing, and they were both on KU, even after Hunter Dickinson left the game. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk about the college football playoff rankings, what we saw. Is Indiana safe? What about K-State? What the hell's up with Tulane? College Football Playoff Committee. Well, one team has 3 losses, one team has 2 losses. I think that's kind of what you're talking about here. We'll also talk about the path for K-State, how they get to the Big 12 championship. Does a Big 12 team get a bye? Do they jump Boise State? We'll talk about that. Blake Snell is a Dodger. $182 million, but that's okay because 62 of it is deferred. We got to stop this deferred stuff, man. Major League Baseball's got to stop the deferred. The Dodgers right now have a $305 million taxable payroll, and they're not done yet. They're already at $305 million that's taxable right now.
Wait till someone ends up like the Saints, and then it'll end. And the owners will figure out a way to end it then.
That's the thing, though. They're one of the few teams that can take a chance on a guy that only pitches 100 innings a year, that doesn't get more than 20 starts a year.
They did last year and
Yeah.
won the World
Right.
won the World Series.
Exactly.
With
They have so many different guys in the
Yeah.
rotation. And they got Ohtani coming back. They might get Sasaki. They've already got Yamamoto, and now they're getting Blake Snell. Bobby Miller may not even be needed, or he's just depth. Maybe they bring back Walker Buehler. Like, they've got Glass now. Jack Flaherty's still out there that they traded for. Like, there's a lot of guys that they can go and bring in or already on the team to help out for a guy in Blake Snell who the last 7 years has only qualified for the ERA title twice because he doesn't pitch enough innings.
They're
He's-
more the Steinbrenner Yankees than the actual Yankees.
No
with Hal
doubt.
Steinbrenner.
Well, you are not wrong. They're more they are spending, and it's understandable because their revenue has exploded in the last year with Shohei. And winning the World Series helps, and their TV deal is unbelievable.
And if you add another Japanese pitcher, it's only going to make it better.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I've said the Royals should invest what they can in Sasaki. And, I know they can only invest so much because of the rules, but, when you got one organization that's getting $160 million in a TV network deal every year and another one that's getting 40, and they've got the Japanese added interest and revenue and ticket sales and proximity, memorabilia, all of that, merchandise, the merch. Yeah, they had the highest revenue last year of any Major League Baseball team. Not a surprise. And they're still deferring all these payments. Shohei Ohtani, starting in 2034, is going to get $68 million a year for 10 years, starting in 2034. That's that contract, man. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about the college football playoff. More Zone next. Tex says, nope, KU fans don't like Dickinson's antics either. I think it's not a one size fits all. I think there's some like
I like it.
Yeah, right.
I enjoy, because usually we're on the receiving end of a Duke player doing the same thing, or
right.
it's like another team's player where,
Yeah.
God, I hate that player. It's kind of fun to have that player.
See, and I think there's a difference between some of the antics of Hunter Dickinson and like Christian Brown. I called Christian Brown a punk in an endearing way. And I tried to explain that as much as I could because it was a compliment in that he played sort of punk-ish in that he's in your face and he's tough and he's talking trash and he lets the crowd know that he's there. But I never felt that there was anything cheap from Christian.
Like Grayson Allen is the cheap artist kind of way of
he would be maybe your typical version of like that dude's a punk.
Yes.
All right, and that's why I'm like, it's punkish, but I'm using it as a compliment. I'm trying to, maybe there's another word that I should use, and
he's doing it within the rules of the game.
Yeah, and you know everybody, and he's playing at a high level, and by the way, the fans are giving it to him just as much as he's giving it back to the fans when he's on the road. And
have you noticed Chiefs fans just kind of show you a little parallel? DeAndre Hopkins and the other team's best corner for at least 2 out of the 3 weeks that he's been playing has gotten inside the other corner's head to where they're either fighting on the sideline or there's jawing or it's a battle.
Yeah.
And it's about, mentally getting your opponent off just as much as you are trying to physically and, scheme-wise get them off as well.
Look, I would say as a guy that roots for the black and gold, I would take it. Maybe I'd hold my nose and root for it, but I'd certainly take it. And I'd understand if people are like, oh, that's I guess it is. But you know what? He's dropping 15 and 15. Texas KU fan here. It looked intentional to me. I mean, I wish it didn't. I wish it didn't look intentional. It looked intentional to me. I feel like he's too good of a player, for some of those things. I think he can play at a high level and play at that line without crossing over from time to time. I think it's tough.
Maybe that's the lesson Bill's talking about.
Yeah, right.
It probably is.
Yeah, get to that line.
And maybe don't go close because now it's like, I don't want to say Draymond because Draymond went way further and did way more.
Yeah, he hasn't kicked anybody in the nards,
but
purposefully,
on purpose,
clearly purposefully.
That is Grayson Allen territory.
Yeah.
But when you have a reputation, that's a good example of saying like, well, you can't even get close to the line because.
There was one Grayson Allen trip that I thought was incidental. And he was called for the trip. And I'm like, man, I felt like that was incidental. But you don't get the benefit of the doubt when you're actually reaching out and trying to trip people. Like, that's what Grayson Allen was doing. 913-912-4810. Tex says, I'm a Jayhawk, but Hunter Dickinson strikes me as a larger version of Grayson Allen, just a bit. I mean,
I get it.
There's an element of that. Yeah, I mean.
We're sitting here saying the reputation. So I can't sit and say that that's wrong. It's right, but.
Right.
I don't not like
and
it.
Again, I think there's every other team in America that would have
take
him.
it. Yeah.
Every team that was recruiting him knew him at Michigan.
It was good enough for John Calipari, wasn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Perry. John Calipari.
My bad.
John Calipari. John Calipari, okay? Here's how you remember. This is my tip to everybody out there if you don't know how to and they're in town. Arkansas is facing off against Illinois tomorrow. Which, by the way, we got a 4-pack we're going to give away to that game. A couple of 4-packs we'll give away to that game, the Thanksgiving Day basketball showdown with Arkansas and Illinois. But here's a little way to remember that it's pronounced John Calipari and not John Calipari, because John Calipari has had a pair of Final Fours vacated. So it's John Calipari. That's true, though. Both of those things are true. He's had a pair vacated, and it's pronounced John Calipari. And it's also true that he's in town and they're getting ready to face off against Illinois tomorrow. Brad Underwood, the Fighting Illini. That one goes at 3 o'clock. That's on CBS, streamed on Paramount Plus. And if you want to head out there for a little Thanksgiving college basketball, that's kind of cool for the. I know there's a lot of Arkansas people, Arkansas alums in town, alumni. I think Arkansas gives in-state tuition for the area. So there are a lot of, which is smart, by the way. I think every school should give in-state tuition that borders Missouri and Kansas, and especially in this area. That would be smart. I know some schools don't. They could be smarter. Maybe they think they're better. I don't know. But maybe everybody should do that. Whatever. Anyway, but that's a cool little deal that's going on tomorrow because it's just a cool college basketball game, a bigger game, and it's right here in our backyard. You know what? Let's do that right now. let's give away a 4-pack to that game, the Arkansas and Illinois game. 913-381-0810. Let's give away a 4-pack to the game coming up tomorrow, 3 o'clock out at T-Mobile. If you were thinking about heading out there anyway, let's do that. Caller number, man, what should I do? What caller number should we go to? Let's go with this one. Let's go. Hold on. What is hold on. Sorry, Dan. I know the phone lines are going crazy, but I'll get it. I'll get the call. I'll get the correct caller number. Darn it. I was gonna go KJ Adams, but he's number 24. So caller number 6, 2 + 4. Caller number 6. Caller number 6, 913-381-0810. Caller number 6. We're gonna give away a 4-pack to this game coming up tomorrow. 913-912-4810. 4-pack. 913-381-0810 for the 4-pack to the game tomorrow. Text line is 913-912-4810. We're going to talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll talk with Matt Lane. We'll get you set with Lee Sterling. That's going to be at 11 o'clock now, or at 11:45 or so. We'll get Lee Sterling and Todd Lebo getting you ready for the games. Went through the text messages, so we'll take a time out now, and then we'll come back and a little bit of the college football playoff. We'll have a little more time to expand on it coming up later on in the show, but a little bit on the college football playoff and what we saw. I disagree with a lot of people that think Indiana's safe, because Clemson's right there. Indiana's got Purdue, so they don't get any benefit by beating Purdue. Clemson's playing a top 15 team in South Carolina, and they'd have to move up 2 spots only? We'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll get more into college football later on in the show because I definitely want to talk about the college football playoff and the rankings last night. And look, there's tons of stuff that can happen, that will happen. I don't think Tennessee will lose to Vandy, and they won't be playing in the SEC championship. So I think Tennessee is in. I think Georgia's in because I don't think they are going to punish Georgia for losing in the SEC championship game to either Texas or Texas A&M. If it's Texas A&M, I think Georgia takes care of business. If it's Texas, boy, that'd be an awesome rematch. SMU or Miami, whoever wins that, or even Clemson. Like, if Clemson somehow gets the tiebreaker, like, I think Clemson can only play SMU in the ACC championship. But if Miami were to lose to Syracuse and Clemson goes and beats SMU, there's 2 ACC teams ahead of Indiana.
She's crunched the numbers, and the results are clear.
The backup booty isn't as good, as it turns out.
If she picks a dog, she'll have the math to back it up.
It's not like Travis Kelce has done. My dog is very excited about this, just so you know.
It's Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, this Wednesday edition of the show. No show tomorrow. We've got football all day long right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We got a best of coming your way on Friday as the Chiefs get ready for the Raiders on, around here we call that Red Friday, not a Black Friday. People call it Black Friday whatever they want. It's a Red Friday around here. There ain't no way it's a Black Friday with the Raiders in town, all right? Not happening. Not happening. It's a Red and Gold Friday. Joining us now, Cynthia Freeland from NFL Network, our analytics expert, joining us here in the zone. Cynthia, how are you today?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing just fine. I am wondering, how was your Topgolf experience? I saw the tweets, and we love going up to Topgolf. My son and daughter both love it. We were up there like a month ago for a charity event. So how was the family experience at Topgolf?
I have been asking my whole family to go for like ever now, and they finally broke down. My dad brought his own clubs and his gloves.
And his golf club, yes! And his golf club, yes!
And my mom was surprisingly really good at it. She apparently, she's just a ringer. She can score, like whether or not she hits or not. Like there's like some sort of magnet in the ball for her to find the little targets. And my fiance, he was really trying to swing for the fences, literally, and tried to hit the back wall a bunch. But we had a great time. And finally, they played after years of me begging.
Was this in Detroit or was this in L.A.? Where'd the family get together?
Yeah, we're in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I have my show on Thursday, so game day mornings on Thursday, so we're here. But you have to watch because Marianne, my mom, her favorite player is Patrick Mahomes by like a mile.
Yes.
So she did a little numbers game show with me on earlier this week. So we put that out on the internet. It's very cute.
Nice.
We had to edit out a part where she called two teams losers, which is hilarious. But
are you allowed to tell us which team she called, even though you edited it out?
I can because I'm on Kansas City radio, but she called the Raiders losers, and then she called, I believe, the Bills. She wanted them to be losers too because she doesn't like anyone who competes with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the postseason.
Can we get that audio?
Yeah. Can we
So we
adopt?
can play that?
Sure.
Can we
It's
adopt
great.
your mom?
She's like, they're losers. I
Yeah.
was like, Mom, you can't say that.
Chiefs Kingdom is just adopting Cynthia Freeland's mom. That is 100%.
She's a real hoot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she has a Patrick Mahomes flag outside of her house in Arizona that she refuses to take down because she put it up before they won the first Super Bowl in a row, and it's like tattered and worn. She's like, I don't care. It stays up. They're going to win another Super Bowl.
Your mom is amazing. This
Insane.
is
She's
that's
insane.
so
Yeah.
great. Chiefs Kingdom is loving Cynthia Freeland even more now because of that. By the way, I don't know the relationship with your parents and your fiance, but have they had much interaction with them, or was this your fiance trying to show off for the future in-laws of like, no, Dad, I know you got your clubs in your glove, but I'm going to hit the back screen here because I can swing the wrenches pretty well.
I think that so Kyle's a very good golfer. So I think that he got a little frustrated because he didn't have his own clubs, and the clubs there are fine but not wonderful. So I think we had they've met each other, they know each other very well, but it just was funny. Like Dad and Kyle are very close, so it's
cool.
It's just I think he was just he got a. My mom was crushing everyone, just like mishitting and somehow, like I said, getting super lucky. So
yeah, my my father-in-law.
Like, how is this happening?
My father-in-law would absolutely bring his own clubs and his glove as well. He plays at least 18 holes almost every day. The guy was a truck driver for 40 years, retired, and then picked up golf after retiring, and he plays like every day. He has 7 hole-in-one. 7. Is it holes-in-one or hole-in-ones? 7 holes-in-one in his life,
amazing.
and he didn't start playing until he retired.
My mom used my 7-iron. This is we're getting off topic.
No, this is great. This is enjoyable.
She used my 7-iron on a par 3 course. She just took a swing at it. The Donald Ross, a nice course. It's in northern Michigan, but it was that's the same guy who did Pinehurst. The woman managed to hit a sprinkler head, bounce it off like some other tree and get a hole-in-one with my 7-iron.
Yes. So
Like
your mom has a
Kathy Gilmore
hole-in-one in her
style.
life?
My mom has more holes-in-one or hole-in-ones than me, and using my I was like, I'm never touching this club again. I was so mad.
Amazing. Did she keep the ball? Did she keep the golf ball?
Of course she kept the ball, and she had to buy us all drinks, too.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I've witnessed one hole-in-one, and it was one of my best friend's dads. We were out golfing, and it was the green was elevated, so we couldn't even see, over the hill of where the green was on this par 3. And he hits it, and we're like, oh, that's a pretty good shot. You knew it landed on the green somewhere. And we got up there before him, and we're looking around, and we're like, no way. So we walk up closer to the cup, and it's in there. So then he gets up there, and we're like, I don't know, man, your ball, it might have hit something and bounced around. We make him look for the ball for 5 minutes. We make him walk around, and we're like, well, have you checked the cup? And he's like, no way. So he goes, and it was his first hole-in-one, and he's shaking and everything, and he's so excited, didn't even realize he tees up the ball on the next hole and shanks it into the woods.
No.
Didn't even, and he was like, oh my God, that was the ball. He's like, oh my, no. We had multiple groups that we said play through because we were just searching and searching and searching. It's like, no, play through, guys. Play through. Keep playing through. We never found it.
But that wasn't his first one?
That was his first hole-in-one.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, that is a man that's hit 7 hole-in-ones that he teased
No, this
that
was
up.
this was one of my best friend's dads.
Ah.
And my father-in-law, he's got all the golf balls and the trophies or whatever that they give out, when you get a hole-in-one or whatever. He's got them all in his basement at his bar or whatever. It's just a bragger. You know what I mean? Just showing everybody.
Yeah, I would too. I would dip them in gold and kids do for parents do for their kids' shoes. I would do bronze or gold, whatever it is, and have them sitting there. And Kyle, on our first time golfing, he got his first hole-in-one on hole 9 of the first time we ever went golfing together. So
and that's when you knew it was meant to be.
I was like, what life am I living? I see other people hole-in-one. Maybe I'm the rainmaker with that, right?
There it is.
I can help other people get hole. Fine, but that's actually a good role for me.
That's great. Yeah. So that's when you knew it was meant. Did he reach down to get the ball out of the cup and then on one knee then propose at that moment?
No, it was actually our first time. It was a couple months. Only we'd been dating for a couple of months. So, but I was like, is this guy for real? What?
I don't know that I can be with this guy if he's already got a hole-in-one. I don't know. You can't. He's not going to show me up. I'm not going to be a better golfer than my dad. Cynthia Freeland is our guest, our top golf expert and also analytics expert. I've always wondered, I don't think we've ever asked you this. As a Lions fan, do you like the fact that they play every Thanksgiving and it's sort of that tradition, or would you like every once in a while to not have to worry about a Lions game on Thanksgiving as being a big fan, or do you like that's the tradition that every year Thanksgiving the Lions are playing?
This is going to sound weird, but I liked it when they were terrible because I didn't live in Michigan, and before on Thanksgiving, not everyone where you go to have Thanksgiving dinner it necessarily has the red zone. So they weren't always on nationally or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you always got to see them. Right. Now they've lost 8 years in a row. Right now it's an 8-year losing streak. So there's been some years where it's been awesome. There was a year against Philadelphia where Megatron caught 3 touchdown passes and the Eagles were good. That was special. But for the most part, now that they're good, I don't like it because I don't want to worry about it. I know it's the Bears, but I hate it. But when they were bad, I kind of liked it because at least then, they brought out the cool jerseys and uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
Honolulu blue looks good on everyone. So it's kind of a reverse thing now where I'd like to be peaceful and not have to deal with it on Thanksgiving Day. But before it was who cares? They're playing with house money. If they win, cool. They're going to lose anyways, so.
But now if you're
it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, but now that makes total sense, by the way. But now that you're in LA, that's 9:30 in the morning, the game. It's over. Then you guys can hang out and eat during the Giants and Cowboys game, which will be a nice little nap time for a lot of people, certainly on the East Coast when that thing starts at 4:30 for Giants and Cowboys. And I've got a number of different parlays, Cynthia, that all include Lions money line against the Bears. So I am banking on the losing streak ending tomorrow. Okay. Literally banking.
Me too. I really like that. It's wild. It's weird to feel people keep asking me, and I'm I don't even want to. It's funny because at this point, they're like, well, who do you want to play in the Super Bowl? And I'm like, well, at first I was like, if they ever were to make the Super Bowl, who would you want to play? They're one of 4 teams to never make it, right? Yeah. So, like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like you're going to view it like they play the Chiefs, and then they're like, I don't lose either way because I like both teams, or do you want to play like someone you don't like so that like all of America can be on your side? I don't know.
All of America would be on the Lions side. If they played the Chiefs, the Lions would be America's team that day.
That's right, but for me, I'm selfish. For me, it would be great because no one loses who I like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
who would your mom root for?
And you get to. My mom would root for Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
It's wild. It is a wild,
over her
wild
Lions.
problem to have. She said it. In our little mini interview, she says it too. She's like, I don't care. I like Patrick. I'm like, okay.
Wow. That's amazing. That's unbelievable. Cynthia Freeland is our guest. All right, let's talk about this Chiefs team and Patrick Mahomes. He's played some really good football over the last few weeks. He's now on what would typically be a Patrick Mahomes run of 12 touchdowns, just a couple interceptions after the start that he had. But they slip by the Panthers. They leave Carolina with a win. It was a 3-point win. What do you make of that game and how it unfolded and how the Chiefs won and any takeaway from, a win is a win. They're 10-1, but I don't think even they were satisfied with how they performed.
I liked how Patrick answered the question about that in his presser this week, where he said something like they practice being in those situations. Mm-hmm. I think that, sometimes it's easier when someone is making it ahead of the game. Dave Canales came out and said, basically, this is like a franchise establishing game for us. Like, they made it their Super Bowl. He is rallying the team to try to get some sort of consensus building around Bryce Young and around the opportunities that this team could potentially have. They have had a rough season. Bryce Young's looking a lot better, but point is they made that their Super Bowl. They made that mean so much to them that, you saw something crazy. I mean, they had 12 sacks prior to that game. Yeah. They sacked Patrick Mahomes 5 times. Like, these are things where that team was just very, very, very amped up for this particular game. And coming off a bye, coming off an unexpected win in Germany, like, there are some things like the coach needs something there. Now, when I'm watching the game, do I think I understand why they went out and added more offensive linemen? Of course, you have kicker situations that makes things different as well. Like, it's great to have had Isaiah Pacheco back for that particular matchup. Like, sure, there's just a lot of things here where the context really does dictate everything. And the other thing to keep in mind always is that Team 32 and Team number 1 aren't as far or different as it may seem when you do have scores sometimes like teams blanket, like the Lions beat the Jags by 46 points. But that's not – Team 1 and Team 32 aren't as far apart as it may seem, and certainly not as far apart as other sports are.
Yeah, the phrase that I like around here and use it a couple times is, sometimes the Chiefs just play with their food. And now around Thanksgiving, it's even more appropriate. But, from time to time, they play with their food. I appreciated when CBS released the video in the locker room of Andy Reid addressing the team. And he starts off by going, hey, man, don't hang your heads. Don't hang your – this is a win. And he goes into talking about, hey, we stack the wins. We get the momentum going. It's all good. We're good. We won the game. I loved hearing that because the Chiefs clearly in the locker room were not happy. They won the game, but they didn't feel like that was a win. Like, they weren't happy with their performance. And I like, instead of a team just going, hey, we won, it's all good, who cares? Why is anybody worried about us beating a team by 3 points? They looked at it and said, not good enough. Yeah, we beat this team by 3, but we didn't perform well enough, and we're not happy. We're not satisfied. It's a sour taste in our mouth, even with a win.
I mean, that's the reality is, excuse me, the reality is that, the mindset does matter. We talk about momentum versus mindset. I believe in psychology. I don't know what momentum means. Depends on how you define it. But when I'm looking at the opportunities going forward, I really wouldn't want to be Aiden O'Connell or the Raiders in this game. Not at all.
Agreed.
I mean, and also you could think the Chiefs are maybe just really helping casinos. I read their 10Ks. The revenue's been down this year because a lot of favorites have been winning.
True.
But the Chiefs, they're just making money hand over fist I'm just saying, maybe their version of Red Friday is getting the casinos out of the red.
Oh, wow.
Maybe they're just being helpful.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. Anybody that puts money on the Chiefs to cover the spread on Friday is just playing with fire. I mean, why would you bet on the Chiefs to cover any line right now?
Oh, I will. I will because I actually think that this is, unfortunately for the Raiders, they're going to be. This is where we see Christmas and last week become a confluence of. All right, you think this is funny? Okay,
all right.
Like let's go.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right.
Especially if Pacheco is, I don't know how he's going to look, but back on the field,
Yeah.
that will really help.
And I think maybe Omenihu will be back on the field, so that certainly would be good as well. Cynthia Freeland is our guest. What do you make of, from a defensive standpoint? It feels like this defense has taken steps backwards this year from the beginning of the year. Certainly a step backwards from last year, but that's sort of to be expected when you lose L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Watson gets injured and Joshua Williams is just not performing to the point that he's not even playing a snap the last 2 weeks on defense as a cornerback. But it seems like as the season has gone on, and the last 4 weeks in a row, Cynthia, we've come away saying, yeah, but you know what? Baker Mayfield had a great game. Like he played really well. Yeah, but you know what? I mean, Bo Nix had an awesome game. Like you got to credit Bo Nix. But you know what? Like Josh Allen is a superstar. Like I mean, come on, he's gonna. Well, you know what? Like Bryce Young had a great game. Like you got to credit Bryce Young. Like at what point do you go? Yeah, maybe there's the common denominator that these guys are having great games against the Chiefs defense for some reason.
I mean, it is very hard to be the best at something, from start to finish of a season.
Mm-hmm.
It is very hard to maintain the level of focus, effort, and energy. Like, the stats are hard because other teams get more favorable matchups, right? So instead of worrying about, explicit numbers against explicit situations, I think the directional trends are what is more important. And also, how often do you play the Panthers? Like once every 4 years, right, in the rotational thing. So you have to remember styles make for fights as well. So when there's less familiarity, and also, I mean, Adam Thielen hadn't been playing. We knew Chuba Hubbard was going to be good, but, like, there was a lot of people on that defense, like DJ, I can't even say his last name right, one of them. He's, like, that hasn't been playing all season either. So, they have some fresh legs if you think about it. So I'm not suggesting that it's not something to be concerned about, but Chiefs fans are a little bit used to a pattern where the defense gets stronger as the season goes on because learning a Spags defense is difficult and becomes easier as they take more reps together. Now they have more reps together to begin the season, started off stronger, and now it will say, okay, this is the type of situation where let's see what happens after Thanksgiving because that is the stretch that leads into the playoffs and the postseason. So I'm not saying there isn't something to be like, okay, like, this is taking a little bit of a step backwards season-wise, but that's not to say, like, put your foot on the gas. People talk about the post-Thanksgiving, like that is when you put your foot on the gas to the postseason for sure. Like, let's see what happens then before judging it too hard.
Yeah, but that's a great point. That I think that's one of the reasons why there's a little more consternation around here is we're so used to seeing this defense progressively get better as the season goes along, and it feels like it's heading in the wrong direction right now. But they need to put pressure on the quarterback, that's for sure. Is there a way to quantify the difference between a pressure on a play and a sack? I mean, it seems obvious, right? Just pressuring your quarterback. The Chiefs got one legitimate sack in the game, and it was one of the two possessions where they punted in the game. The Carolina Panthers, I don't really care about the other sack. It was Bryce Young running a naked bootleg and got pushed out of bounds at the line of scrimmage, and so they got a sack for it. That doesn't count. It was 2nd and 1 at the 2-yard line. Okay, I'm not counting that as a sack. But is there a way to sort of look at and quantify, like, yeah, pressures help. Pressures do matter, but bringing the quarterback down is like getting the defensive rebound. You almost end your defensive possession in basketball. You got to do that first before your possession is over. The rebound, bringing the guy down to the ground is more times than not a high percentage that they're going to end up punting on that possession. Because the Chiefs are not sacking people right now.
Sure, they're not sacking people right now, but, I mean, Bryce Young and also Aiden O'Connell, like, they're going to do everything they can within their power. I mean, look, the Panthers spent all of their money on guards this year. But look at how much they're spending on that. Yeah. It is like $1 bajillion, conservative estimate, $1 bajillion. But that is what they were trying to do. And bopping him around in the pocket, for lack of better terms, because sometimes I'm like, what is going on there? That is not a consistent way to win games, right? So being erratic is not a great form of – so a pressure against Joe Burrow is a really different thing. A pressure against Josh Allen is a really different thing. Sacking Bryce Young is probably a loss of 7 or 8 yards per play, right? So that is what you're talking about. Same thing is the case with Aiden O'Connell, right? They're not trying to showcase the upsides of these quarterbacks, and I'm not being mean. I'm stating facts.
Yeah.
In the same way that they would showcase the upside of a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow. So a sack is going to be far more detrimental. But if they're like doing strange, erratic things in the pocket, the pressure, you're going to get weird. Sometimes it's like hitting a home run, right? You'll strike out or hit a home run in that case, as opposed to have consistent move the chains type of situations where you're going to be able to reliably count on that type of offense for not just 60 minutes, but, multiple games. So sometimes you're seeing, you talk about low probability things, like sometimes you are on the wrong side of it. The Chiefs are on the right side of winning single possession games, but in terms of drive by drive, some erratic things can happen and they can complete a pass, right? So that is not a consistent way to win. If you played that type of offense again, if they played the Panthers again this week, it would look a lot different.
Visiting with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Wanted to get your thoughts on the Chiefs and offensively, because I think the level, like if the Chiefs have taken a step back defensively from a year ago, the expectation was that the offense was going to take a step forward, and at times that has not been the case. Injury certainly. Tackle play has been, less than desirable so far this year. But I do think there are steps where the offense can improve. Getting Pacheco back. Hollywood Brown, later on in the season, he's getting closer. The Chiefs put out a video of Hollywood Brown working out and catching passes and everything. And so Andy Reid's talked positively about his progression. And so there is an expectation at some point he will return. Xavier Worthy, that connection I think will be there. DeAndre Hopkins has helped out on 3rd and 2.5 to have it. Final drive, Patrick Mahomes threw the slant to DeAndre Hopkins. Caught the ball, moved the chains, they get a field goal to win it. So offensively, I think they can take a step forward. But I'm curious from your standpoint on the way that Patrick Mahomes and the offense has progressed overall or evolved while sort of regressing in terms of how far the pass attempts are. And if this is just shell defenses, cover 2, if it's not enough time in the pocket because, the tackle issue the last 2 years have been an issue. But Patrick Mahomes' average depth of target in his career, going from 2018 to this year, 9.7, 8.5, 8.5, 7.4, 7.5, 6.9, 6.4 the last 2 years. 6.9 last year and now 6.4 this year. It's a half yard shorter than it was last year, which was a half yard shorter than at any point in his career. So is there a combination of the 2 deep, the shell? It's also the last 2 years where Jawan Taylor hasn't lived up to the contract, and they had Donovan Smith and Wanya Morris last year at left tackle, Kingsley and now Wanya Morris at left tackle. Is there something to that, to where the strategy now is to get the ball out quickly because you can't really hold the ball and take those shot plays? What are you seeing from this offense as to the progressive decline in the depth of targets for this Chiefs team?
It's number one, it's the coverages. Look how often you're seeing single high. No one gives. You can credit Lou Anarumo for that. You can credit Leslie Frazier for that. You're not giving him a single high. Just not. And that's a pretty big deal. Especially, look, Xavier Worthy. I don't know if you remember this, but he ran a really fast 40. Just a thing.
Yeah.
And so people are not going to give Patrick Mahomes or Xavier Worthy any sort of opportunity to smoke you. That's just not going to happen. So number one is that. Number two, the pressure rate coming from different levels. Patrick doesn't make his offensive line look as bad because he's so able to make some magic happen, especially on 3rd down, et cetera. But that is still, if you could give him an average of an extra 0.2 seconds in a game in the pocket, I think you'd see considerably different results. And also, as you see more DeAndre Hopkins their quarterback wide receiver duo, like the combination of what the passer rating, the yards for all of those things, it's super high. That you talk about that hole-in-one for your friend's dad, that's kind of what that touchdown looked like last week. I'm like, did he? Oh, okay. It just went right in the hole. It was a hole-in-one right there. But, that is the type of thing where having more reps together, and then you get Hollywood Brown back, which my mom alerted me to because she saw the Twitter post. But I mean, look, when you don't have when it's Travis Kelce and then a rookie who's learning the system, and then you get DeAndre Hopkins and he's folding in, you'll see it. We started to see it last week, right? Like that was the most Patrick Mahomes-like result in terms of stats we've seen in a while. But more and more, that as you get more and more of your players who stretch the field out, you will see more and more field stretching stats.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, and I'd like to see them throw a couple of, shots to Xavier Worthy in the game, but I also like, how they've used him a couple of times. Like there was a 1st and 10 and it was a, shotgun snap to Mahomes, got the ball just one step back, right? It wasn't like a 3 or 5, or sometimes there's a 7-step drop in a shotgun too, which is a little concerning because I don't think the tackles can block like that. I don't think they don't run it very often. They ran it this last week and it ended a drive when it was on 1st down and they did that. But a 1st down play, it was Xavier Worthy's running down the field, gets about 12 yards of depth, and there's no way the cornerback is going to be sitting on an out route at that point. The guy runs a 4-2. And that guy's running with him, and Xavier Worthy just puts his foot in the ground and cuts out right, and it's an easy pitch and catch for a 1st down, 12-yard gain. And I'm like, that. You don't have to use his speed to just run deep. You can use his speed as an advantage of how the defense is required to play him, because if you're in his back pocket, you're toast because he's going to run away from you. So you've got to almost overcorrect and be next to him, like even or ahead, which is then going to leave you susceptible to those quick outs or a comeback route. I would like to see the Chiefs do a little bit more of that. They did it a couple times in this game instead of going, well, we got Xavier Worthy, we just got to throw deep.
Yeah, I mean, but that comes with, it's not to say like, after 12 games, like you've already gotten the whole NFL defense down, right? Like there does come a little bit of a learning curve. I know that we're this far in the season, we're like, is he still a rookie? Yes, he is still a rookie. So, a lot of that, and also again, the decisions that defensive backs have to make, the business decisions that they choose, you're gonna shut down the opportunity for a rookie to catch you deep if he's really fast. Like it just becomes more as soon as Hollywood comes back, then there will be more opportunities like that as well, right? So those things all work together, and again, you have to also remember, like in college, they don't really play a lot of they don't play a lot of different coverages on defense. So even if you're awesome in college, it's still a lot to look at and understand what's going on. And when you've got, it's not like Patrick Mahomes throws you a light ball, right? Like it comes fast at you. So it's not always, not to say he's not doing great, because he is doing exceptionally well, but he's still a rookie. So some of those more advanced looks will come with time.
Yeah, and I think as Travis Kelce said, the offense that Andy Reid has, the routes are not lines on a piece of paper. Like there's a lot of options, and there's reading of the defense, and you got to read it the same way as Patrick Mahomes reads it, and adjust off that. So it may take a little bit more time. Last one for you, Cynthia, before we get a quick prediction. John Harbaugh, is he the analytics prom king this week for the analytics community? 3 different 4th down conversions. 4th and 1 at his own 16, down 10-7. They score a touchdown on that drive. 4th and 1 at his own 39, up 17-16. And then again, 4th and 1 at the Chargers 25-yard line. They get a touchdown there. And then up by 7 with the touchdown. An extra point gets him up 8, and he goes for 2 to go up 9. I mean, this guy was just like, it was like, what does analytics say? Well, analytics was standing right next to him, just talking to him in his ear.
Well, and you have to remember also, it's kind of doubly fun because a lot of the Ravens staff went over to the Chargers, and the front office staff, including the people who make the analytics decisions, in the ear of Jim Harbaugh. So it's like a little double, hey, here's my little, it is truly Thanksgiving brother turning the fork in the, type of stuff, right? Because the back end of all of that is a little extra, rogering there, because, it's a little brother on brother crime. I ask Bridget Condon, our reporter who was out there, she said that because Jim always wears cleats, which I think is like hysterical. She said John
so
was not
perfect.
wearing cleats.
It's so perfect that he wears cleats. Like, I don't know.
I just love it.
It's just so perfectly Jim Harbaugh that he wears cleats. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else from.
Well, he needs traction when he runs out on the field to shake his brother's hands after losing because
Yes. That's what
they got to do that.
That's what happens.
Yep.
All
What
right.
happens?
Yeah. Do you have a score in mind, real quick, for the Chiefs and Raiders on Friday?
I have a 25-19 score, so do the difference. The delta is bigger than the spread, and look at the total in that one too. So I think this is going to be. I think there's a little bit of a. We remember Christmas. We need to keep pace with the Bills. The Bills now get the Niners this week, who are a little bit kind of down, but the Bills will want that. They're coming for that. They're trying to come for that number one seed, and I don't think that the Chiefs want them to have it. So I think the Chiefs get a nice solid. I think it's more than that 1 point.
All right, we'll see what happens. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Enjoy the Lions game tomorrow morning for you, and we will talk next week.
Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy all the food and the football and the family, all of it.
Yes, absolutely. You too. There is Cynthia Freeland. Great stuff. Love the conversations. And, man, Cynthia Freeland's mom just now fully a part of Chiefs Kingdom. 100% in with Chiefs Kingdom. Patrick Mahomes' flag that is flown out. It's tattered and worn there in Arizona, but stays flying, and would root for the Chiefs over her Lions because of Patrick Mahomes. How about that?
I don't know if there's better fans in this town.
I mean, like Detroit and Lions fans, and nope, I'm rooting for Patrick Mahomes. And she calls the Raiders and the Bills losers. I mean, come on, what more do you want? Oh man, we'll take it. And if they played in the Super Bowl, she would root for the Chiefs. The rest of the country, we know, would be rooting for the Lions. The Lions would be America's team for 2 weeks leading up to that. Please stop the Chiefs. Please don't let them three-peat. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll hear from Lee Sterling later on this hour. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network at noon. Andy Reid, Big Red, will talk at 1 o'clock along with some of the players. We'll find out who those players are. More Zone next. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Yes, John Harbaugh, the analytics darling of the week. It's weird. I don't hear people complaining about the analytics when Harbaugh went for it on 4th and 1 at his own 16.
Well, someone has to replace their patron saint of Brandon Staley.
That's right. Exactly.
He was the former analytics
That's
king,
right.
and he's also a former head coach.
That is true.
Of an NFL football
Yes, and sometimes it was sort of irresponsible at times. It felt like maybe for Brandon Staley, but 4th and 1 at your own 16-yard line, down 10-7. You go for it. You pick up the first down. You score a touchdown later on in that drive. You could have punted. You're 7 points less, and the Chargers get the ball up by 3. That was before Dobbins got hurt. And then you're up 17-16. You got 4th and 1 at your own 39-yard line. You go for it again. You could have just said, no, I'm not going to go for it. We're up by 1. Then later that drive, you've got 4th and 1 at the Chargers' 25-yard line. We'll kick it, go up 4. Nope, they went for it again. Scored a touchdown. They go up 24-16. The flip side of that is, in the fourth quarter, it was a 3rd and 5 for the Chargers, or 4th and 5, I should say, for the Chargers, at their own 34-yard line. 10 minutes to go. They were down by 7, so a little different because there was still 10 minutes to play. You're only down by 7. And it's 4th and 6, not 4th and 1. Jim Harbaugh kicks. They get the ball back down 14. Ravens go and score. And also when the Ravens went up 7 with the extra point ensuing, they decided to go for 2 to go up 9 instead of just going up 8 to make it a 2-point game. They did not get it. They were still up 7 there in that game. All right, let's hear from Ian Rappaport. He's got a couple of nuggets on the Chiefs' next 2 opponents. J.K. Dobbins and the update on the injury for his knee. And then who's expected to start on Friday? The Chiefs, Spags was talking about maybe one of 2 quarterbacks, different quarterbacks, maybe Desmond Ridder, maybe Aiden O'Connell. Ian Rappaport with updates on both players for the Chiefs' next 2 opponents.
Let's get to some of the key injuries and key situations for this week. J.K. Dobbins, the standout running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, been one of the best running backs in the NFL this year, suffered a knee sprain on Monday night against his old Baltimore Ravens. Really had been impressing this season. Now expected to miss the next game, not going to play against the Atlanta Falcons. And my understanding is he is up in the air after that, so certainly could miss more games. After this game, Gus Edwards is the backup for the Chargers. Then for the Las Vegas Raiders, some good news, actually good injury news at the quarterback position. Aiden O'Connell is expected to start this week. The reason I know that is because Antonio Pierce, the head coach, said if he can come out and practice, if he can grip the ball, if his health is good, then he should play in place of Gardner Minshew, who is on IR. Aiden O'Connell was a full participant yesterday at practice despite a right thumb injury, so he should be good to go.
So it looks like it's going to be Aiden O'Connell coming up on Friday. People wondering if it was going to be Desmond Ridder, because didn't know what the latest was going to be with Aiden O'Connell, but that's not the case. Aiden O'Connell apparently was a full participant, and he will be starting, from all indications, coming up on Friday against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tomorrow, Giants and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, is now pacing towards being out for the game. They are going to look a little bit more at his arm. He's going through more tests and evaluation, but it looks like he will not play this Thanksgiving tomorrow. And it looks like Drew Lock would be in line for that Thanksgiving start. Not a fan of that because I've already placed money on the Cowboys -4 because Tommy DeVito's not as good as Drew Lock. And he was running around and wasn't making plays and looked bad. And it's an inspired Cowboys defense, and the Cowboys still have a chance to make the playoffs. While slim, it's still there. I'm not a big fan of Drew Lock playing because he can make plays and he can hit Malik Neighbors and they can make he can make some big time throws, and all of a sudden a quick, 50, 60-yard touchdown changes things.
I think the Giants
know?
knew that too.
What?
Yeah, because Joe Shane was
You're
at Colorado
crazy.
practice this weekend or this week. So
You're crazy.
well, he won't be making that decision next year.
That's
anyway.
right. But they were watching Shadir Sanders the other day. The entire Giants brass, except for John Mayer, because he's like, you guys aren't going to be there.
He's like, you guys go do that.
I'm the
Report
only one.
back.
I'm the only one that needs to be. I just want to know how popular he's going to be.
Exactly.
Is it going to be a popular player?
Can I sleep at night?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be popular with Dion and everything. It'll be fun. It'll be the traveling road show. Let's go, Shadir Sanders. Even if we don't think he's the best quarterback, it'll be a popularity contest. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Todd Lebo hanging out with Lee Sterling, getting you set for the next few days of football and NFL and college football. That's next.
Who's going to win and by how much? You're about to find out from national sports handicapping champion Lee Sterling on The Zone. Log on to ParamountSports.com or call toll-free 800-400-9741 to get started.
Welcome back into The Zone on this Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Normally we talk to Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports on Red Friday, but the Chiefs play on Friday, and it's Thanksgiving, so we got to get this in, Lee, because Thanksgiving is a huge time for football at Paramount Sports.
It is, and I have 9 TVs in the house. They will all be on. So anyone who comes early or stays late, got football. I love how they have a really good game even at night. So it starts early with a traditional Detroit game. And remember, do you remember when there was talk they were going to possibly kick them off Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
remember that?
Because they were so bad. But now they're must-see TV now, man.
Yeah, so that starts it off, and then the clunker is the Dallas game against a team that most people also want to stay away from right now, the New York Giants. So, and then it picks back up at night with 2 teams playing extremely well, Green Bay and also Miami. So, how about this? 15 games. We have the turkey shootout. I get calls usually a week or 2 in advance. When we have the turkey shootout, absolutely. We've had some 13-2, some 12-3 records over the last 5 years on this promotion. 15 games from tomorrow morning all the way through Monday night. Just $97, one place, ParamountSports.com.
All right, let's get after some games. We've got some big ones for our local teams around here. It's going to be Senior Day at Mizzou. They're facing Arkansas. It's the old Battle Lines game. Brady Cook, their senior quarterback, was on our station earlier this week. It's an important game for him. Senior Day I don't think means things to a lot of players because they played at 6 schools, but it's going to mean something to Brady Cook. What's this going to mean for Missouri? They're 4-point favorite.
Yeah, and it wasn't – I think didn't he take over for Connor Basilick?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it just seems like it was yesterday. Real quick 4 years for him. So 8-3 Tigers are in position, I think, to complete one of the quietest 9-win regular seasons in the history of 9 regular seasons. So they have not beaten really good teams. Murray State, Buffalo, UMass, and the worst SEC team, Mississippi State. But they are the best opponent. Arkansas has visited for a true road game this season here, as Arkansas has only played at Oklahoma State, Auburn, Mississippi State, and a neutral site game against Texas A&M. So I do think that Missouri by far has the best defense in this game. Getting healthier on offense, I think that's going to be enough. Should be a fun game to watch, too. Missouri 31-24.
All right, big game for the Kansas Jayhawks Saturday, 11 o'clock right here on Sports Radio 810. They were dead in the water. They have continued to win. They've won 3 in a row against ranked teams. Now they can make a bowl game. They can get their 6th win on Saturday against Baylor. But Baylor still has an outside chance to make the Big 12 title game. They've got a lot on the line as well. Kansas has moved to a favorite in this game.
Yep, they have 1-point favorite. Everyone wakes up at different times, and Kansas's wake-up call came very late, but a loss here obviously would ruin their run to bowl eligibility. They've just totally forced Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado to reconsider who they are in succession, and they actually exposed some weaknesses in Kansas State in that 2-point loss here. Winning in Waco, not going to be easy because Baylor runs the football as good as anyone. But in Kansas's worst 2-run defensive performances this year, where they gave up 309 yards and 226 to Arizona State and Kansas State, they were only beaten by a total of 6 points. This team is a different team even than when they played Kansas State here. I like Kansas. Should be another exciting game, 34-30.
Yeah, it'd be a wild one. Now, this is a really interesting one in Ames Saturday night. Colorado plays Friday. Arizona State plays before Kansas State and Iowa State. So K-State could be drawing dead as far as getting to the Big 12 title. But everything will be on the line for Iowa State. They're about a field goal favorite at home.
Yeah, Kansas State, they got to look and deep and find out what happened against Houston and, to that extent, Arizona State. They would have been in the Big 12 title game. They won those 2 games here. But 5-3 Wildcats have come to terms, I think, with it. I think they have the better offensive and defensive lines in this game, and maybe even the skill talent, too, to play spoiler versus a title game-seeking 6-2 Cyclones team. Kansas State flips to being an underdog for the first time this season, with revenge for that wild and woolly snow game loss last year when motivation was totally lacking and their defense was absolutely embarrassed. In a crazy season, this can only happen. Yep, wrong team favored. Kansas State 31-24.
That would be raining on the parade at Iowa State, that is for sure. All right, Sunday Night Football is a big one. Chiefs fans will be watching. They're hoping Buffalo loses the game just to give a little breathing room for the Chiefs for the 1 seed. But, boy, the Niners are coming in. They're a mess. Buffalo's coming off a bye. They're almost a touchdown favorite.
Yeah, this is the second straight week here that San Francisco is an underdog after being favored in 36 straight games. Buffalo 9-0 following a bye. The Bills are plus 14 in turnover differential, and Josh Allen should be back. Also, the receivers, Keon Coleman and tight end Dalton Kincaid, should be back, 2 of his top 4 targets here. I like Buffalo. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. Buffalo 30-17.
All right, now, will the Chiefs take care of business at home on Friday? Black Friday game on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
You can watch it locally here on Channel 41. We will have pre and post for you. All that stuff going on Friday as well. Almost 2 touchdowns, though. I mean, they're going to beat the Raiders, right? But the Chiefs haven't been able to kill anyone this year.
No, nothing's come easy. 8 of the 10 victories, as we know, have been one-scoring margin. Maybe there's hope here for the Raiders here, who have lost 7 in a row. So, maybe Las Vegas has this pegged exactly right here, and maybe it should even be higher. They were without 5 starters last week, and their top 2 running backs in that 10-point loss to the Broncos. Then they lost Gardner Minshew for the rest of the season because of a broken collarbone. Doesn't make any difference. Looks like it's probably going to be Desmond Ridder, but he is much, much worse here. KC, 31-13.
That'd be nice. Give something easy out there for Chiefs fans to chill. Something easy to do is get involved in the turkey shootout, but you always have a free game for us, and it's the Heroes game. Nebraska doesn't have to win because they made their bowl, all right? But I thought it was going to come down to the end against Iowa to have to win a bowl game, but that's your game of the week.
Yep. How about this? First 10 callers that call 800-400-9741. We're going to give them Iowa and Nebraska for free. That's right. The Iowa-Nebraska, where I have a real strong opinion on one side, is absolutely free. Just call 800-400-9741. First 10 callers, 800-400-9741. And you want to hop on board, as we said, world's famous Baker's Dozen, just $97, 15 games, just one place, ParamountSports.com.
All right, Lee, good luck this week. We will talk to you on Friday to get you ready for the Chiefs.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 2 more hours to go. Coming up an hour from now, we'll hear from Andy Reid and whichever players will be at the podium. We'll talk some college football, a little baseball, and we talked a lot of college basketball in the first hour with KU getting the win last night against Duke, what I thought was not a good but a great night for the Kansas Jayhawks. We also talked about Hunter Dickinson and what happened with that. Thank you to Cynthia Freeland in the previous hour. Let's talk some Chiefs football with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Matt, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you, as always, for having me on. And, we're ready to talk about a Friday game of the best.
Yes, no doubt. We're calling it around here. I refuse to call it a Black Friday with the Raiders in town, so it is a Red Friday with the Raiders in town. Let's look back a little bit before we look forward. I feel like there's so many different takeaways and opinions across the entire spectrum of the Chiefs' victory over the Panthers, 30-27 on Sunday. Where does Matt Lane fall in this back and forth, this swinging pendulum of opinions on a victory in the NFL, but not necessarily leaving a satisfactory taste in your mouth?
Yeah, so I actually I went to this game. I was there.
Oh, yeah,
with,
that's right.
Awesome. Yeah, with the majority of the stands being Chiefs fans as well. Very funny seeing all the red, just kind of the red and blue scattered throughout the entire stadium. It was a pretty 50-50 split, which is funny. I would say, even from the vibes from myself watching and from what seemed like the majority of people near me and the stands, nobody was ever afraid the Chiefs were going to lose or really thought the Panthers were going to win. But the fact that it was so close was a little unsettling, I think, when you watch it in real time or even when you go back and watch it. Just kind of hey, why is this game so close? The Chiefs are supposed to be the Super Bowl contender. The Panthers, while playing better, their couple weeks leading up to their bye, are definitely one of the 5 least talented teams in the NFL right now. So the fact that it was that close was definitely unsettling and very frustrating to watch. But I will say there was never any doubt for Panthers fans or Chiefs fans, at least that I was interacting with, that ever really felt like the Chiefs weren't the better team even on that particular day. It was just the same thing that always happens. The Chiefs have a couple flaws that show up, and they don't really fix them throughout the game. This week it was mostly all on the defensive side, and they just didn't really have any fixes for it. And the Panthers did a good job of exploiting it. The Chiefs didn't break their backs to make sure that went away, and then here we are with another time-expiring game-winning field goal coming in clutch.
Yeah, that's. I mean, look, they have found a way to win on these last play of the game contests. I mean, dating back to the Super Bowl, they won on the last play. Baltimore, they won on the last play. Tampa Bay, they won on the last play. Denver, they won on the last play. On Sunday, they won on the last play. Like, it's what they have done somehow, some way. They've been able to pull off the victory in all of those games where it came down to literally the last play. Were you surprised that, you talk about defensively, were you surprised that, Steve Spagnuolo continued to blitz time and time again when it wasn't working, and Bryce Young was doing a pretty good job beating the blitz? And also, Soren Petro asked him yesterday, hey, would you do anything different this go-around? And he was like, nope, still blitzing. I guess the second part isn't that surprising because it's Steve Spagnuolo. It's like, hey, are you going to breathe air today? Yes. Would you change it? Would you not breathe air yesterday if you had your choice? No, I wouldn't change anything. I would breathe air. But what do you make of the, I guess, non-adjustment? I don't know if stubborn's the right way, but just sticking with whatever the original game plan was that wasn't working against Bryce Young in that particular contest.
Yeah, well, so even if you really dial in and look, I think they only blitzed the Panthers 35% of the time in the game, which is a high number, but not a crazy high number. That's not out of the norm for what the Chiefs have done. I don't think that's even crazy out of the norm for what the Panthers have generally seen. So it feels like they kind of had a game plan that they thought would work. It clearly didn't work because of how Bryce Young and that Panthers offense was playing. So, yeah, it would have been nice to see some kind of adjustments to come up. I think where I keep running into right now, and I'm sure Steve Spagnuolo and the entire defensive coaching staff have their ideas for this as well, is they don't really have, I don't think, an answer. They don't have what the answer is going to be. The four-man pass rush isn't getting home when they do only rush four. They've become very predictable. They have to bring pressure. They have to bring pressure from the second level, the third level. They got to try to be exotic and figure this stuff out because they can't get pressure with four, and it makes them predictable. So it's less so that I think that the blitz isn't working, and it's just very predictable when the blitz is coming, and you see offenses planning to attack that, and I just don't think they have that second pitch ready as of right now to come back against it. And we've seen that back-to-back weeks now with, how the Bills handled it when the Chiefs brought the pressure. Now you get Bryce Young handling it just as well. So it's something to keep an eye on because they will have to come up with some kind of fix at some point in time. I just don't know if they have it currently.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the case. It's if you look at it, is it more a problematic for you? Maybe it isn't at all, but if there is an issue moving forward and a concern for you, is it more pressure on the quarterback or back end, the secondary, and getting beat in some of these games? Where would you put maybe your preference of improvement for this defense the rest of the way? Better coverage or actually turning pressures into sacks for this team?
So I think the bigger issue is the coverage unit, just because they don't have – without Jalen Watson right now, they just don't have the answers. Like, Joshua Williams is clearly not in their plans to take some kind of significant role on the outside, whether that would be in place of Nazeeh Johnson, who's had his ups and his downs, but played better this past week, or even to allow Trent McDuffie to move back inside more frequently. Just he doesn't appear to be in their game plan because they haven't utilized him all year. And then you look into the slot, and they're going to continue rolling with Shamari Connor, and even when the matchup coming up says, hey, this is going to be a bad matchup for him in coverage, they still trot him out there. So I just don't think they have answers with the coverage unit, and I think that's the bigger worry. If you start to compare the pressure numbers, time to pressure, stuff like that from this year to last year, it really just comes out and says, hey, last year they got a few more coverage sacks. The ball wasn't coming out quite as fast as it is this year. You look at the completion percentage against and the time to throw. It's not so much that teams are throwing the ball so much quicker this year. It's just that they're completing more passes when they do throw it. So it seems like the coverage unit can't keep up to really allow the pass rush to get home. And now, obviously, the pass rush isn't executing at a high level, but I at least have some faith that Chris Jones will eventually turn it back on again and become the dominant force that he was to start the year. Getting Charles Omenihu back will help. Hopefully, Joshua Uche continues to see an uptick in pass rush reps, and Karlaftis shows up a little bit more consistently. Like, there's at least hope for the pass rush. Coverage-wise, I just don't know where that help's coming from what we've seen so far.
So I talked about this yesterday because, I didn't know what the numbers were, and I saw during the Panthers game, there's a lot of consternation and frustration with Nazeeh Johnson in the secondary, and I'm watching the game, and I'm like, Yeah, he gave up a couple of receptions, but I'm like thinking back, I'm like, man, I don't remember any big catches. Like Denver and Buffalo clearly picked on Nazeeh Johnson. We can pinpoint those plays and talk about specifically this play, that play. They were going after Nazeeh Johnson. And so I went and looked because I was just curious. And Nazeeh Johnson got targeted 8 times in the game against Carolina, which, by the way, the last 3 weeks, that's what it's averaging. It's 24 targets the last 3 weeks. That's 8 targets per game. But he was targeted 8 times and gave up 3 receptions for 41 yards. And it was a, sub 55 quarterback rating when targeted, which is a far cry from the previous 2 weeks when he was targeted 16 times, gave up 12 receptions for 157 yards and a touchdown and a 126 quarterback rating. So it ain't exactly like he's Deion Sanders out there. It's just this game specifically, I didn't see the issues with Nazeeh Johnson. What stood out to me and what I'm curious from your standpoint is the safeties combined, Justin Reid, Brian Cook, and Shamari Connor. And maybe that's because of how often they went cover 0 and blitzing and putting Connor and Cook and Reid on some wide receivers in one-on-one matchups. But those 3 guys combined, Matt, were targeted 11 times, and there were 10 receptions for 163 yards of those 11 targets to the safeties. Is there something there? Is it, Brian Cook, I'll be honest, he doesn't look as explosive before the ankle injury as he doesn't look explosive now as he did before the ankle injury, so maybe that's taken a little bit of time. Shamari Connor was playing a lot of slot and maybe just the athleticism. It's a difference between McDuffie and Shamari Connor. I don't know if Justin Reid has lost a step. I'm not sure, but what do you make of, in this specific game, Nazeeh Johnson held his own, but the safeties were getting torched by Bryce Young?
To me, it's kind of like the flip-flop of the Bills game. In the Bills game, Nazeeh Johnson got a lot of the heat, which deservedly so.
Deservedly,
it wasn't
yes.
like Shamari Connor was great in that game either. It was just kind of overshadowed by somebody else, and I think this game's the flip. Nazeeh Johnson was better, by no questions, better in this game, but a couple drops or a couple semi-difficult catches go the other way, and his numbers look different.
Sure.
Like they look a lot worse than what they did. But even if you complete those passes, Connor and Brian Cook and Justin Reid are still going to be the crux of the issue this week because that's where the Panthers attacked. And I think that's the issue that the Chiefs are facing. They have a weakness both at outside corner and then also their guys for man coverage over the middle of the field, whether that's going to be tight ends where the safeties are more dealing with them, whether that's going to be their slot coverage guy with Connor in there working against wide receivers, especially shifty ones. They have weaknesses at 2 different spots, and that makes it hard to protect them if you're dealing with, we're saying, okay, we need to help our outside corner, but we also need to help our linebackers because they're still not great in coverage, and now we also have to help our slot corner. Just all of a sudden now you need a lot of help in a lot of different places, which is putting a lot of pressure on your defensive coordinator to be the guy that figures it all out, and I think that's where you start to see Spags and these high leverage downs really start to rely on the blitzing and seeing if the blitzing is just going to get home because there's no real way to cover all of those. Weaknesses may be too strong of a word, but cover all of those things that can have mismatches on any given down because the Chiefs just aren't super well suited there. Whereas earlier in the year, Watson holds his own outside. McDuffie moves around, but he obviously is playing great. And now you can use these safeties and your slot corner, and you can help these other positions a little bit better or by scheme. And so I think it's just the culmination effect of losing so many different guys. Now you have all these different players who maybe don't excel in coverage are all having to play vital roles in coverage, and they don't have the pieces anymore to give them the same level of help or support that they maybe had earlier in the season.
No, it's a great breakdown because, so many that, we've talked to or discussed things with, it's they got to improve, getting the quarterback down, pressure. The defensive line has to sack the quarterback. That's been the consensus on where you would hope the improvement would come from. And so you saying secondary and coverage is awesome because it's not just what everybody is saying, but that breakdown makes total sense as to why if you had a preference of where the improvement would come from, it's in the coverage because you have seen in games where it's been the safeties that have been an issue. We saw a couple of games where Nazeeh Johnson was an issue. 2 of the 5 highest quarterback rating against for Trent McDuffie in his career have come in the last 3 weeks. for him against Denver and against Carolina. Like that's here's the thing, he can't be an issue. You know what I mean, for this team. He can't be an issue. He's got to play at a high level, and he's awesome. And there are some things that took place, and that touchdown against Moore when he was there and got his hand on the ball. If that's incomplete, it doesn't count as a touchdown. It's not a very high quarterback rating against. You give up a touchdown, that quarterback rating is going to look pretty good. Also, we had the penalty and pass interference. Those two plays in the end zone, change a lot for the quarterback rating against for McDuffie. But I've looked at it this way, Matt, that I've almost felt like the Chiefs have lost 4 cornerbacks from last year, or 3 cornerbacks from last year. They lost L'Jarius Sneed, they've lost Jalen Watson, and they've lost Joshua Williams, because I thought he was fine last year. I was okay when Joshua Williams was out on the field, but the Chiefs do not think that this year. I mean, they have made their decision, right? Like, Nazeeh Johnson has played all of the snaps the last 2 weeks outside of 4. Joshua Williams has played 0. Chris Roland Wallace has played 0. And Keith Taylor has played 0 on defense. They've essentially made their decision, right, that they'll sink or swim with Nazeeh Johnson. And for whatever reason, Joshua Williams just hasn't done what they were hoping. That's 3 of their top 4 cornerbacks from last year that are not playing on the defensive side.
It seems pretty clear that, they don't want to put Joshua Williams or any other corner out.
Right.
We saw a couple games of Roland Wallace playing in the slot, and, I'm still intrigued to see if we get more of him because the Connor situation. Yes. Connor in the slot as the majority of the guy getting the majority of the reps in the slot seems very matchup dependent. So I am curious to see if we do see Roland Wallace. That seems like maybe one of the other moves they can make is see if he's better in pass-heavy scripted offense against pass-heavy offenses and stuff like that. But they don't want to put Joshua Williams out there. They don't want to elevate Nick Jones and play him. Or Keith Taylor's been he's now back in the mix, but they still don't want to play him. So it seems like they feel like they're pretty limited in what they can do. And you're right. It does seem like kind of a 3. I would almost go maybe 4 corners because now McDuffie can't play in the slot, and that
that's
matters,
a good point,
right?
yeah.
You lost him getting to play in the slot. I think McDuffie's fine on the outside. I know he's had a little bit of a rough stretch here, and if you look at a lot of the plays he's given up, they are very small. Very few things can go wrong on that play. It's almost perfect throws, perfect routes. It just kind of happens of being a rough stretch, and even still, he's been generally pretty good. But the fact that he can't play in the slot, where I do think he's still better, even the beginning of the year when he was playing great on the outside or in the slot, it's because he's moving around. You can get him fully activated in the game, letting him bounce around from the slot to outside, and they've lost that. He's kind of locked into one, not just side, but he's locked into the boundary. And then Nazeeh Johnson's locked into the boundaries. And they not only lost kind of an extra corner, or at least half a corner, the versatility's gone a little bit. And it's just, I am very curious if they have some kind of solution, because there is a lot of players that played reps for them last year that they don't feel like playing this year. They've tried a couple different guys. I think one of the, not the biggest issue, but one concern or issue might be with Joshua Williams is anytime he has come on the field, even the past 3 years, it looks like the communication gets a little wonky. It looks like there's a lot of back and forth. That's where I think we've seen lack of broken plays this year. The Chiefs' coverage or communication coverage has been very good. They've given up very few explosive plays. When they have, it's usually been a guy that's covered well. The plays just complete. Whereas if you go back to other previous years, there has been some coverage breakdowns. And I really wonder if they haven't kind of pinpointed Joshua Williams as one of the guys that maybe makes that more likely to happen, and that's why you don't see him as much. And I think that's why you'd get real nervous to play him and Nazeeh Johnson, who I think is, on that fringe area of maybe in that same communications issue, maybe the one completion of Brian Cook, the first third down in the game, he switched really late in the play, and I don't think Brian Cook was ready for it. Little things like that I think you see from Nazeeh Johnson and Joshua Williams. So playing them two together might force Spags to really dial back his coverage, and we know he doesn't want to do that either. So they got themselves up in a pretty tricky spot with the coverage unit right now.
Yeah, and it's a good point because when the Chiefs are playing their best, they're connected, the chemistry is there, the communication is there, they're moving on a string, they're handing guys off perfectly. Those things happen, and it's sort of taken for granted. I know for me sometimes it's taken for granted because when we don't see it, it becomes more stark and evident. On the offensive side, Matt Lane is our guest. Is there optimism for a step or two forward for this team? We've seen Patrick Mahomes the last few weeks, those numbers are typically comparable to what his career is and not the 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions that we saw earlier this year. But is there a level of optimism that, okay, if the defense has slid back a little bit, that actually we're seeing some signs of life from the offense to increase and be a little bit better, and maybe they get back to being an offensive-driven football team. Are you seeing anything that from the offensive side of the football?
Yeah, I think the offense has looked pretty good. Well, so the Bills game was kind of weird because the offense definitely stagnated for a lot, but you saw every time they needed a bucket, they were able to get it, and it looked good. That was the first half. They had a couple drives of like, okay, we need to score now or this game might get out of hand. Boom, they do it. Second half, it was, again, kind of sloppy, slow to start, but then as soon as they get down 9, we need to go score. They drive down, they do it, and it looks great. They come into this Panthers game, and same thing. Every single drive, I think their first 6 drives, they either scored or got into scoring position, and then that final one, some penalties and a sack pushed them out and made them punt. Then they had another punt drive before going down for the field goal again. So the offense appears to be on the right trend, and I think even watching it, not accounting for level of difficulty or the strength of their opponent or anything like that, it's starting to look a little bit cleaner. You're starting to get an idea of what this offense is. Specifically, I thought Patrick Mahomes played really good in this game, barring the taking of a couple sacks that he maybe didn't need to down the stretch. He played really good. He seemed to have a good grasp of what the defense is doing. He made a couple throws that were a little bit more timing-based into tighter windows than we had seen him make most of the year, like some confident throws to Hopkins, one to Juju Smith-Schuster that ultimately didn't count because of offsetting penalties, but he was putting the ball in not dangerous spots, but just more high difficult throws, and he was making them. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about the offense. I think they're starting to gear towards, okay, the defense isn't going to be able to win us every game. We can't expect to do what we did last year for a large part of it because the defense isn't playing at the same level. The offense is going to have to win us some games now, and you're starting to see that start to show and start to bubble up to the surface a little bit. So hopefully they can keep that up.
Yeah, the last 5 games for Patrick Mahomes, he's completed 72% of his passes, averaging 257 yards per game, has 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. The course of the season, if you did that for 17 games, that would be roughly 4,400 yards, 41 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a 103 quarterback rating. That's around what we think of Patrick Mahomes. So the last 5 games, he's sort of played more of that Patrick Mahomes. Even in the last 4, though, I mean, there have been 15 sacks against Mahomes. And I think that's sort of where I look at it and go, okay, so he's playing his best football, it seems like, of the year. Yet he's getting sacked at a higher rate, at a higher clip in these last 4 games. And I don't know if some of that is Patrick Mahomes, if there's, running into some sacks because he's not trusting the pressure or trusting the protection that may have been there on a certain play, and escaping the pocket results in a pressure or a sack. I'm not sure. But it is interesting that the last 4 games he's been sacked 15 times, yet he's playing phenomenal football and putting up the numbers that we've typically seen from Patrick Mahomes. Do you think DJ Humphries can help in that area? Is there a level of expectation, or what should be sort of a realistic expectation for DJ Humphries? Can he come in and play at a higher level than Wanya Morris, do you think?
The whole, again, let's start with DJ Humphries. I think that there is a hope that he can come in and take over that starting role sometime before the playoffs start. You really got to start to play the schedule game and see, how many games does he need with the starters if this is the route you want to go? How healthy does he need to be, or how conditioned do we need to make him before we do this? And then how do we maximize his amount of time with the starters so we're not just throwing him in with, 55 snaps under his belt playing next to Joe Thuney and with Patrick Mahomes. So they are a little bit of a balancing act, but I don't think, looking at his contract, especially the fact that there's some incentives there, the timing of it, and then just kind of the way the play at the left tackle position hasn't necessarily improved throughout the year. It's not any better now than it was week 1. Maybe a little more consistent with Morris over Suamatea, who started the year, but it's not gotten a lot better. So I do think the goal is for him to start by the time they are really in this playoff run. So it might be another couple weeks until that happens. They might try to wait it out and, got a short rest before this game. He's obviously not going to start or probably even be active for this upcoming game. But you start looking at, there's the Chargers game coming up, the Browns game. Maybe try to get him some reps before the Christmas Day game, or at least by then, so he has some time with this starting offense. And then I think it goes to a larger point. The offensive line doesn't allow a ton of just pure pressures, right? You look at the pressure rates they've given up and stuff like that. It's one of the better of Patrick Mahomes' career, so it's crazy to see that his sack rate's so high. And watch some of these plays, it just seems like he's holding the ball, and the pocket's kind of collapsing around him. And I think that's the big issue, though, is the Chiefs have done a bad job of giving him space to operate. and it's making him uncomfortable. You pair that with, inconsistent wide receiver play because of all the injuries, and you're just getting the double whammy from both sides of guys aren't necessarily open exactly where you trust them to be. The pocket doesn't give him a lot of space to move around in, and things just seem to collapse around him, later on in the plays. And it's frustrating to watch a player that has, was once the pinnacle of don't take sacks, the lowest sack percentage, the pressures ever, and all of a sudden now he's taking them pretty frequently. But I think it's part of the mantra of living to fight another down. They know if they don't turn the ball over, they will still stay in the game. So I think in his own mind, Mahomes is just okay taking a sack rather than trying to force something, especially when the pocket around him gets so convoluted so quickly so often.
Yeah, Matt Lane is our guest, and I think those are good points. I want to expand on this more, not in this conversation because we're running out of time, but I'd like to do a little bit deeper dig. I did it last night, and I was looking at the depth of target, average depth of target for Patrick Mahomes, and I brought this up with Cynthia Freeland, and going back to 2018, those numbers have continually headed in the wrong direction. Shorter and shorter depth of target: 9.7, 8.5, 8.5, 7.4, 7.5, 6.9, 6.4 this year. And she pointed to the defenses and the two deep and the shell coverage and everything. What I think is sort of fascinating, and it's small sample size so far, Matt, but in the games that he has played, there have been 3 games this year where his average depth of target was between 6 and 6.9 yards. So right in that area of what he's been the last couple of years. And in those games with Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Carolina, he's completed 74%, averaged almost 290 yards, and he's got 7 touchdowns and 1 interception for a 114 quarterback rating. The other 8 games, when it's been higher than 7 or lower than 6, he's got 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, only completing 68% of his passes, averaging 220 yards per game with an 84 quarterback rating. Small sample size, it's just 1 year, but is there anything there, like, when they're in that groove of, like, his average depth of target is right between 6 and 7, like, boom, that's the sweet spot. If they can find that more often, that's when Mahomes is sort of locked in, and maybe it says something about what they're doing offensively and getting the ball out and letting guys make plays, but 3-step drops, here's the throw, not behind the line of scrimmage or throwing it 30, 40 yards down the field?
Yeah, so I think that's definitely what this offense has very much become a little bit more and more rhythm-based than what it was in his early career.
Yeah.
And part of that's the way defenses have played. Part of that's not having Tyreek Hill. Part of that's not having prime Travis Kelce. Like, there's plenty of reasons for it, but it's definitely a lot more of a rhythm-based offense now. The thing, though, is Patrick Mahomes, throughout this fantastic, start to his career that we have had, you go up until at least 2022, I wouldn't say he was the most, rhythmic passer. He definitely was a guy that played a little bit looser. He was a guy that moved around and threw guys open with funky arm angles or his movement in the pocket. And now, all of a sudden, you're no longer dealing with those same level of wide receivers in their prime. You're dealing with some inconsistent wide receiver play, new bodies in and out all the time. Now the timing becomes a little bit more paramount. And so while he's trying to learn to play that way, he's also got to get help on the other end of it from the receiving group. And so when it clicks, I think that's what you're seeing there. With it, when they find that sweet spot, when they're in that rhythm and everything is working, it looks great. And I do think that's where we see Patrick Mahomes, have his better games. It's not when they're throwing the ball behind. It's not when the average depth of target's like 4 yards, like we've seen sometimes. That's not when they're at their best. And it's also not when they're trying to force the deep shots off of play action over and over again. It's finding that timing passing game, getting Andy Reid's West Coast offense that he really likes, getting it working, and everything's starting to flow. So I think that's certainly where this particular version of this offense is going to operate best, is when it looks like that. I just think that they're struggling to have multiple ways to get to that level of offense.
Yeah.
Like, when that stuff's taken away, they are struggling to get there in other ways, and I think that's why you've seen the offense be so inconsistent this year, but it looks like we're trending in the right direction now. Like, that's the good news.
Yeah, the highest average depth of target this year was against the 49ers at 8.8, and the lowest was against Cincinnati at 4. And those 2 games combined, he ended up having 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And he had 150 passing yards against San Francisco and 150 passing yards against Cincinnati. That's with an 8-yard depth of target and a 4 yards depth of target. Riddle me that, So it's clearly, if they're throwing it too far down the field or behind the line of scrimmage, out of rhythm a little bit. I love that explanation. More of a rhythm offense. That's why you see when it's between that 6 and 7 yards, it's boom. Mahomes is completing 3/4 of his passes. I mean, he's brilliant. Matt Lane, very quickly, score in mind for the Raiders.
The Raiders are in a lot of trouble right now. This
Yeah.
team doesn't look like they're ready to play. They got injuries. They don't really know who's playing at quarterback. It looks like it's going to be Aiden O'Connell, but another team that's definitely down the ways a little bit in terms of overall talent. Not a great team. I know the first game this year was a little bit closer than everybody would have preferred. And, well, buckle up. It's probably going to be that way. Probably going to be that way again. I'm going to say the Chiefs take this one 27-22. So, maybe not a last-second field goal to win it, but definitely one that's going to keep everybody locked into their TV on a Black Friday rather than out and about doing something else they might want to do.
We'll see if that is the case. Matt, thank you for the time, man. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, buddy, and enjoy the football. We'll catch up in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have happy holidays and go Chiefs.
Absolutely. There's Matt Lane. Great stuff from him, man. KC Laboratory Podcast, KC Sports Network, and a couple of really good points there. On the defensive side, talking about the coverage and why his preference would be an improvement at the coverage side as opposed to even the sacking the quarterback. And then the explanation and his view of looking at some of those average depth of targets of just like, man, when this offense is so much more of a rhythm offense, and when they're in that rhythm, they look unstoppable. They look like Mahomes is an MVP. When they're out of that rhythm, it looks choppy, and you're having to complete some longer third downs, and it looks like more, you're playing in sand or swimming upstream, whatever, the term you want to use. And so we'll see moving forward if they can get back into and play more of that, 6 to 7 yards average depth of target. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. More Zone right after this. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Drew Tranquill, and DJ Humphries. Hear from DJ Humphries today. How about that? Officially a Kansas City Chief. We'll see how good of a shape he is in and when maybe he might expect to be out there playing. You know, the main difference between something like Charles Omenihu and Isaiah Pacheco and their situations versus DJ Humphries is that Pacheco and Omenihu can rotate in and out of the game. And DJ Humphries, when he's playing left tackle, he will play 100% of the snaps. So he's got to be ready to go to play a full game, not rotating left tackle. DJ Humphries starting left tackle, he's left tackle until he gets injured. So he's got to be up to conditioning to play the entire game. Wanted to give you an update on some college basketball that's going on right now and then the rest of the day today as well. In a top 15 team, Indiana, playing today, I don't think they knew that the game was today at the time that it was. They're playing in the Bahamas. Indiana, number 14, is trailing Louisville 74-40. Again, I'm not sure Indiana knew that the game was today. They're down by 34 points with 8 minutes still to go. 74-40. I don't know, maybe Indiana's not the 14 team in the country. If they are, then Louisville might be the number 1 team in the land. I'm not sure. I'd say one of those things can't be true. Louisville can't be unranked and Indiana the 14th best team in the country. Or if Indiana's the 14th best team in the country, then Louisville needs to be in the top 5 because they're winning by 34 over IU. That's, an interesting score. And then a fun little quirk with the Maui Invitational with Colorado winning last night over UConn. We get a basketball version of the football schedule of K-State Arizona this year when they played the non-conference conference game. K-State Arizona conference opponents now, but they played a non-conference game. We get Iowa State and Colorado today playing a non-conference conference game with Iowa State and Colorado because the Buffaloes beat UConn last night. We were expecting this to be a top 5 matchup. Number 2 UConn and number 5 Iowa State in the game today. That's at 1:30 on ESPN2. That was the expectation, is that that's the game we were going to get, Iowa State and UConn. But UConn pulled off the upset, or Colorado pulled off the upset last night. So now it's Colorado and Iowa State today at 1:30 in a non-conference conference matchup. Non-conference matchup between 2 Big 12 teams. That's going on. And then a couple of other big matchups today. Memphis and Auburn, both undefeated. Memphis has played some great basketball since trailing by 13 to Mizzou. They have really turned it on since then. But they play Auburn today, 4 o'clock. That's in the Maui. And then Michigan State, North Carolina, 8:30 tonight in the Maui. Michigan Xavier at 7:30. A&M Creighton, both of those teams are top 25. That's at 5:30 in Las Vegas. So there's some good college basketball games going on today. Mizzou plays Lindenwood from a local flavor at 5:30. But looking forward to that non-conference matchup between 2 Big 12 teams, Iowa State and Colorado. And I don't think Indiana's looking forward to the trip back from the Bahamas to Bloomington, Indiana, anytime soon. Down by 34. They were favored by 3.5. I don't think they're going to cover. I don't think they're going to get there. Favored by 3.5. 913-912-4810. I really think it's interesting, and I certainly would have to do a deeper dive on it than just sort of the surface level that I looked at last night in the average depth of target. I wanted to bring that up with Cynthia Freeland today. But, a little more in-depth of not only the average depth of target for Patrick Mahomes going, backwards, getting shorter and shorter. But, the conversation is like, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes is now fully into, Tom Brady type play, right? You get the ball, get rid of it. But now Tom Brady didn't play against those cover twos the way that Patrick Mahomes has and the shell coverage. But Tom Brady's depth of target, the lowest in his career when he became a starter was 6.8. That was the lowest. Mahomes is at 6.9 last year and 6.4 this year. I mean, Tom Brady throughout his career, since that year of 6.8, 9, 9.2, 8.9, 8, 8.7, 9, 8.9, 8.4, 8.3, 8.7, 9.6, 8.1, 8, 9.8, 8.2, 7.3 his last year with the Bucks. So it didn't exactly Tom Brady. Even Tom Brady was throwing the ball a little bit further down the field. But oddly enough, the two games in which Mahomes has the highest depth of target at 8.8 yards and the lowest depth of target, shortest depth of target at 4 yards, are two of his worst games. 154 yards passing, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions against San Francisco. That was the almost 9 yards depth of target. And against Cincinnati, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That was the 4 yards per target. Now, a lot of that early on was throwing behind the line of scrimmage to Rashee Rice. Little short passes down the line of scrimmage, trying to figure out the offense without Hollywood Brown when they were planning on him being there. And the bracket coverages for Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy not, totally up to speed on the offense, and that's to be expected. It's game number 2 for the rookie in Xavier Worthy. Yeah, it's small sample size because there's only 3 games this year that they have played where Mahomes and the offense have averaged between 6 to 6.9 yards in average depth of target. And those games, he's completed 74%. He has almost 300 yards per game, 7 touchdowns and 1 interception, and a 115 quarterback rating. You can tell, like, in those games, they're in a rhythm. They're going. There's that West Coast offense. Rhythm, snap, throw the ball, fire it, trust it, let it go, trust your eyes, what you're seeing, right? Trust the protection. By the way, those games are Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and Carolina are the 3 times that they've had games where they've averaged 6 to 6.9 average depth of target. And those are 3 of his best games that he has played this year. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up the hour on the other side. Maybe a little bit more on the Blake Snell signing by the Dodgers, $182 million, $62 million of that deferred. And also the college football playoff with the selection committee telling you that the 2 for Tulane is the most important thing and way more important and impactful than the 3 for Kansas State. That's the losses, because Tulane is 7 spots ahead of Kansas State when they clearly have a worse resume and they lost head-to-head to Kansas State at home. We might get into a little bit of that. And I think I'm not sure that Indiana is safe if Clemson goes and wins against South Carolina. More Zone next. Right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. College football playoff rankings came out last night. Indiana number 10. That's what a lot of people were focusing on. Tennessee seems like they're in a great spot. They don't have to play in the SEC championship, and they don't have to. All they got to do is beat Vanderbilt, and they're in the college football playoff. But one of the things that I felt like was a takeaway from last night's game is Reese Davis asked Ward Manuel about, are you guys comfortable putting a team with more losses into the college football playoff over another team that has fewer losses? And they're like, oh yeah, here's word salad about what we think about wins and losses. But then you look at a couple things down the road. Like, I think once they get to like 14 or 15, then they're like, all right, let's just rank. What do we think of these different teams? Like, he talks about Tulane and how well they're playing as of late, right? I mean, they're just playing so much better. They're playing such great football right now, Tulane is. Yeah, they finally faced an opponent that's not named Kansas State and Oklahoma. So, congratulations on doing that. That's great. Because this year they played outside of Oklahoma and Kansas State. South Florida, who's 6-5, UAB's 3-8, Rice is 3-8, North Texas 5-6, Charlotte's 4-7, Temple's 3-8, and they played Navy. That's 7-3, and they dominated Navy. It was a great win. Dominant fashion. Shut out Navy, scored 35 points. It was a dominant win. But they also lost to Kansas State. They have 2 losses, Kansas State and Oklahoma. Kansas State has 3 losses. The Houston loss hurts, Arizona State loss, and the BYU loss. The Houston loss is the one that sticks out, obviously. Arizona State at home, but Arizona State might win the Big 12. But if you look at, like, the resume ranks in college football, the raw resume rank for Kansas State is 14th, and Tulane is 45th. The resume rating for Tulane is 38. Kansas State is 13. And Kansas State won head-to-head. But Tulane only has 2 losses. Kansas State has 3, so how could they possibly be ranked ahead of them? Which Reese Davis was asking them about that for getting into the college football playoff. Comfortable putting in a team that has 2 or 3 losses above a team that has 1 or 2 losses. And, well, yeah, we look at everything, and it's not just about, how many losses and record and everything. Like, well, yeah, it is. Because you're sending different messages. Or are you saying, we only care about how we actually rank the top 12 or 13 or 14. After that, just doesn't matter. We don't really need to spend a whole lot of time and really break those teams down. Because it's not going to matter. We're here to pick the college football playoff teams. Because that's what it seems like. Unless you're going to tell me that no matter what Clemson does, if they don't win the ACC, then they can't get in over Indiana because they have 1 more loss. Chiefs press conference is next. should be pretty shortly now. Also hear from Drew Tranquil and DJ Humphries. So interesting. And here is Andy Reid.
Right. As far as the injuries go, Leo Chanel's out with personal issues. I mean, he missed today. He'll be back in. And Cam Jones was sick and missed today. Spencer is the only one really to report. Strained his hamstring. Did it Monday when training, and so he will be listed as out today. Other than that, we sure look forward to challenge of playing the Raiders, good football team, playing confident football on really both sides of the ball. Now, they've had a couple changes in there. We'll have to adjust to that. But again, our guys had a good week of practice, and we know when the Raiders and the Chiefs get together, it's always one of those kind of games. So, anyways, with that time,
Leo will be back on Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your expectation as far as Isaiah Pacheco and Charles Omenihu being up for this game?
I mean, as long as they're okay. I mean, we'll check on it again today. I've been trying to take it day by day. If they're good after today, then we'll play them. Yep.
Coach, you love NFL history. You kind of mentioned this already, but does Raider Week have any particular importance to you? Just looking at NFL history, what this means?
Well, there's been a lot of great games. I know both teams kind of understand that there's been a rivalry for a lot of years. A lot of great players, both sides, both teams. That's really where the history started back in the AFL with it. So, and both teams have good players, and so they battled each other and violently they battled each other. It was quite again great competition against each other.
And did you see anything positive? I mean, I know it's the first time for DJ, but just anything that you noticed from him?
Yeah, listen, he looked healthy, moving around, felt good. It's just a matter of him getting back in the swing and then also compounded with just the offense, making sure he has the terminology down, and he'll go from there. So,
Coach, what's a reasonable time frame for him?
Yeah, we'll just play it by ear. I told him let's just keep the communication open, and we'll figure it out. That's kind of what we've done with the other guys that have come in, and we'll just keep open communication. He seems like a guy that shoots you straight, so that's what I'd expect.
Coach, you guys have already had to deal with going through kickers this year and a couple years ago when you had Matthew here before. What do you guys like about him, and what are any limitations on how far? I mean, I know he's not Harrison Butker, but
yeah,
he
listen,
did that 59-yarder.
Yeah, sure. No, I think we all have trust in him from having been around him. So we look forward to welcome him into the mix, and I know guys know him and have made him, I think, feel that way coming back here. So full trust in him, yeah.
What sense do you get from the defensive guys? Spags was still a little bit irritated yesterday about the way the game ended last week. What sort of sense do you get from them about how the last couple of weeks have gone defensively for them?
Yeah, listen, there've been some real good things, but there are some things that we've got to clean up, and so the guys are taking accountability for that, and coaches, and that's what it's all about. You work through those things and make sure that you can get yourself where you want to be. Yeah.
Andy, I got a non-football question for you. Yeah. It's pretty viral that you're known for this mac and cheese, especially with Thanksgiving coming up. What is in it, and kind of what's so special about it?
The mac and cheese?
Yeah, your mac and cheese. You've got 5 cheeses and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like it. You and I could do some damage on that thing. Huh? It's as long as it tastes good, we eat it, and that one tastes pretty good. Can't give away the secrets, man. You and I might want to open up a restaurant. Huh?
It is a weird week. You're gonna have a lot of weird weeks with the Friday game and Thanksgiving. You guys will still do some work tomorrow. The guys get a little Thanksgiving time. How will you guys handle tomorrow, and how much family time will you get yourself?
Yeah, there's some unique weeks, but we're making them consistent with what we do, and working around it, make sure the guys get enough recovery time. They always have tomorrow off after the after the walkthrough, and then before they get to the hotel, so they have time to visit with their families, do what they need to do there. Yeah.
Over the last few, good. Andy, I wanted to ask you about the Giving Machine, the organization you pay for My Cause, My Cleats. What does that mean to you and your wife?
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic because it does good for people and all over the world. I mean, it's an amazing thing to look at and watch and see how it's grown throughout the country, and then how it's given people a chance to have maybe an easier life that don't have that, always have the flexibility to buy that. Yeah.
Matt? Obviously, multiple tight ends have been kind of your bread and butter this year. Now losing Peyton, how does that position shake out for you? And I mean, is like Anthony Firkser a guy that you might need this week?
Yeah, no, that would he would be one that we could use in there. Again, he's another one that's coming back to us, so we're familiar with him and kind of what he can do, and obviously a brilliant guy, but and we've worked him in there, so he's been getting some reps. But yes, he's one that we could work with. Yeah.
Last one, Sam.
Patrick mentioned just the two medical situations you guys cover pretty frequently in meetings. I just wonder, how frequently do you have those, and what benefit do you see actually on the field of having gone over this
sure.
frequently?
Yeah, we hit it heavy at least once a week, so it's important. I think most teams probably do something of that sort, and but I think it's important. All the details, situational football, I think is important. That's one of the situations, and we've been at it a few times. We need it. Yeah.
And then just how beneficial is it to have a guy like Patrick who seems to constantly be thinking of all the
he does a great job with it, and he's interested in it. Another guy that's I think great at it as a coach is Matt Nagy, Joe Blameyer. Those guys, they do a great job with it, and Pat loves it. So, but yeah, we try to have a plan going in every week. You see how much we do at training camp with it. It's important. It doesn't mean every time it's going to work, but we're going to try to at least narrow down the odds the best we possibly can with it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Okay, good. Thanks.
All right, there's Andy Reid. Spencer Schrader is officially out for this game on Friday, meaning Matthew Wright will kick. He'll be elevated from the practice squad. That hamstring that he hurt in training on Monday. Leo Chanel missed practice for a personal reason today, but he will play on Friday. Asked about Amenahu and Pacheco, said they'll see after today. If they're good to go, then they'll be up, and they'll play on Friday. And as far as DJ Humphries is concerned, he said play it by ear. Just keep open communication. We'll figure it out. He's a straight shooter, says Andy Reid. So there you go. That's straight shooter DJ Humphries. So there, we'll see when DJ Humphries is up and ready to go again. As I've talked about, that's a guy that's going to have to play 100% of the snaps, not Pacheco and Amenahu that can rotate in. Head coach press conference brought to you by Greengrass Cattle Company. You can buy their 21-day dry-aged, grass-fed, grain-finished farm-to-table beef from their Weston store or online at greengrasscattleco.com. Also brought to you by Robert Brogdon's Olathe Buick GMC. They are offering unbeatable deals and a massive inventory of over 300 new Buick and GMC vehicles. Shop now at robertbrogdon.com. Drew Tranquill and DJ Humphries will be at the podium here in just a little bit. The Chiefs get a walkthrough tomorrow morning, and then they will get the rest of Thanksgiving off before they head to the hotel on Thursday night. So lots of time with their family. We talked about the Raiders coming into town last year on Christmas. Like, okay, who would want to be there? Like, the Chiefs at least get to enjoy a little bit of Christmas Day with their family, and the Raiders are out of town for Christmas and, not very good. And then one team really wanted to be there on Christmas Day last year, and that was the Raiders. And now on Friday, it is the day after Thanksgiving, so Chiefs get that time with their family on Thanksgiving. But hopefully there is a little bit of payback that comes the Raiders' way, and the Chiefs can just simply take care of business. This is more of a game that I look at and say is a get-right opportunity than I thought the Panthers game was. And we talked about it last week. It's not revisionist history. We talked about it last week. I did not expect the Chiefs to go in and just dominate the Carolina Panthers. I thought there were areas that I thought the Chiefs should perform better. Offensive line was one of them. That's concerning. Offensive line was an area that I thought they should perform better because The Panthers had only sacked the quarterback 12 times this year, and the Chiefs gave up 5 in that game. So that's a concern. But going in and just simply dominating an opponent, I didn't think that was the case with the Panthers. This one, though, I think is more of an opportunity of a get-right game. You've got last year to think about. You feel bad about the Buffalo loss, but then the Panthers' performance after that. They were clearly annoyed by that. The Raiders are playing out the string. Antonio Pierce probably isn't the guy. Aiden O'Connell is coming off the IR and is throwing a football this week. And, hey, he can grip the football so then he can go. If not, it's Desmond Ridder. They don't have Devontae Adams. They have a poor running game. The Chiefs were up by 14 in Vegas before the final minute of the game when the Raiders got, that last-second touchdown to make it a 7-point game, and the Chiefs not cover the spread. Like, there are a lot of things pointing to this should be closer to a Chiefs actually cover a wide margin spread than last week's Carolina Panthers game. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but I would be more annoyed and frustrated with the Chiefs' close victory over the Raiders on Friday than I was on Monday after the close win over the Panthers. I think the Chiefs players were more annoyed than I was in their performance. Whereas last year, or not last year, but 2020, it seemed like the Chiefs players were more satisfied with winning close games as like fans were frustrated and upset and annoyed at times over some of the close wins that they were having that year when they went 14-2. 14-1 because they rested everybody in the final week of the season and lost. So their starters went 14-1. 15, 16, 16-2 that year because the 2 playoff victories and then the loss against the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. That was a 16-2 year, but for whatever reason, it was like a frustrating every week. It was like, well, this isn't fun. They're not winning by enough. So I guess that's a stat. But this year, yeah, there have been close games. They've played some good opponents, regardless of what people are talking about outside of the area. Because remember, the Chiefs had no quality wins when they had that Chargers victory under their belt, winning by 7 on the road in L.A. That wasn't viewed as a quality win. The Ravens go and get the win over the Chargers, and oh boy, what a great win for the Ravens. I mean, they went into L.A., and they beat that Chargers team. That's tough. How much did they win by? Well, they won by 7. They won by a full touchdown. Like, that's difficult to do. You went into L.A., that's a good football team. That defense, Herbert's playing great. Ladd McConkey is one of the better rookie wide receivers out there. Just such a great route runner. Pacing for like 1,000 yards. What a good team that Chargers team is. And the Ravens to go there and get that win by 7. Well, the Chiefs won by 7 there. Yeah, but it wasn't a cool performance. Like, they beat them by 7, but it was 17-10. It wasn't as entertaining as Lamar and Derrick Henry and Rashad Bateman's long touchdown and Justice Hill with the 50-yard rushing touchdown. Like, that's more entertaining. So it's a much better win going to L.A. and getting a 7-point win. It's just the curve that the Chiefs are graded on, which is fine. It's reality. I love it. I wouldn't want it any other way. Any other way. No, take this. Keep grading the Chiefs on a curve that if they win by the same amount of margin as another team, one team it's viewed as a really good win, and the Chiefs are viewed as nothing quality about that.
It's like the LeBron commercial. I don't know how many times it's aired, but I saw it for the first time last night where it could be worse. No one could expect anything of you.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It was awesome. It was a whole diatribe about how to handle pressure and all these expectations. And then at the end he says, and it could also be worse. No one could expect anything of you at all.
Well, as a lot of coaches say, pressure is a privilege. You get those pressure and expectation that's there because, you're on a stage. You've given yourself that chance. You've given yourself to have that anxiety and that pressure of going out and performing. If you didn't have the pressure of going out and performing, you wouldn't be performing. You would just be watching. I mean, a lot of us have anxiety and, butterflies in the stomach getting ready for a big game, and we're not performing. We're just watching. And so, it's a great commercial. The better commercial is probably the Dick's Sporting Goods one with J.J. Watt. The Watt family. That's brilliant. That's one of the best new, original concept, even though it's not original in terms of the Christmas movies, but original concept.
But they mix the movies. They don't do just one.
So great.
And they nail it, I agree.
Oh, my goodness. It is so good. Loved it. So I saw that commercial last week for the first time. I've seen it a lot since then. My brother texted me, was like, "Oh, that J.J. Watt Dick's Sporting Goods commercial is awesome." I'm like, I didn't know what he was talking about. And then I saw it. I'm like, yes, it is great. I did watch the first 2 episodes of It's in the Game, EA Sports and Madden yesterday on Prime. Couple of takeaways. One, when did Amazon Prime start showing ads again? While you're paying for the service. I had to look that up. Because it was like, hey, go ad-free for $3 more a month. I'm like, I'm already paying you. That's the streaming service, is that I don't have to watch commercials. It's the first one on Amazon Prime that I've seen the extra commercials added in, the ads. And they're like 3 minutes long. That's a long time when you're not used to ads on these streaming services that I'm already paying you for. Yes, and the free delivery, whatever. But my wife likes the free delivery. I like the no ads and the streaming. Okay, we each get something out of this. It's teamwork, making the dream work. So then I had to look it up, and apparently, there's a class action lawsuit against Amazon Prime for showing ads because it's, sort of a bait and switch or adding something that you're already paying for. Speaking of something that people are paying for, the Chiefs are paying for Drew Tranquill. Here he is right now. It's a terrible transition. Here's Drew.
We'll see what we're going to cook up. I think we're going to do a turkey. Everybody has to do one dish. So I think I'm going to handle the turkey. We'll see what my wife does, my mother-in-law, and then my 2 brother-in-laws. But it should be a nice little spread.
This probably be a Thanksgiving like you probably haven't had before, playing a game the day after it. It is a little bit weird, right? Because you'll have to go to the hotel and all the stuff after you're home, but you're kind of not.
Yeah, it'll be unique. It'll be nice. I'll get to have a family, Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and then my brother's here. We'll have another dinner that night, and it'll be good.
What's the attitude right now on defense? I know you guys aren't particularly happy with the last couple of weeks, but what's the work been like this week getting ready for this game?
I thought Spags said it great when we had our kind of debrief from last week's game. It's like the feeling we felt of being upset is because I think we've set a high standard over the past year and a half, not only statistically but just culturally. And so we hold ourselves to that standard, and we feel like we haven't played our best ball these last few games. So we're trying to steadily improve. We want to be playing our best football in January and February. And so we know each week is another step in that direction, and we hope to get back on the right track this week.
What kind of things are you working on in particular to make that happen?
I think it's just execution of our calls. I mean, there's a lot of nuances in regards to our pressures and a lot that can happen post-snap in our coverages. And so being on the same page, we have some younger guys that have rotated in, guys that haven't necessarily played a lot of snaps together, and so getting everybody on the same page. Getting Charles back this week, excited to have him back. But just communicate and be on the same page, executing our stuff.
You mentioned Steve and his leadership there. How is he, in more than you described, been able to keep you guys kind of focused in on there's a lot more football left to play than just these last 2 weeks?
Yeah, Spags is hyper competitive. He's one of the most competitive coaches I've been around, and I think just his steadfastness, his consistency in his messaging, and he doesn't waver. His game plans are spot on, and he expects us to go out there and execute them, and we'll have to do that at a high level this week.
Let's do a couple more, guys.
You mentioned Charles. He's been practicing for a couple of weeks. Obviously, he wants to get back on the field. What's it been like to watch him kind of want to get back, but know you have to take your time to do that? And what can he bring for you guys that you've missed maybe in this first part of the
Yeah, I mean, Charles brings a lot of energy. I know he's been hungry to get back, and it's looking like it's trending in that direction. And he's been a great asset for us. Obviously, makes that huge play in Baltimore last year. And so I know he's been itching, chomping at the bit to get back, and we'll be excited whenever that opportunity is.
Drew, what do you see from this Raiders offense on tape?
Well, they got good skill guys, got great tight ends, an offensive line that's coming together and gelling, and then a quarterback situation that's been real fluid. We'll see who's in there on Friday afternoon, but it's a group of guys that's getting better as they take more snaps together.
And from last time you guys played, what kind of stood out to you about Brock Bowers as a tight end?
Yeah, he's kind of a complete tight end, can run the full route tree. He's explosive, got great yards after the catch, great route running ability, fast, in and out of breaks, can block as well. And so he's kind of a complete package for him.
Last one here, Nate.
I was going to ask about Brock Bowers myself.
The all juice team. What's the all juice team? We need everybody to have that swag in here.
It's a long story.
All right. All right.
All good, guys?
Thanks, guys.
Awesome, Drew.
No, you got to get Drew Tranquil up to speed on the All
That ain't
Juice
a
team,
long
man.
story.
Yeah, give a shout out to Therese. Come on, Nate.
Drop the ball there.
Yeah, come on, Nate.
That's wild.
Explain. Hey, Therese Paler, one of the greatest people you'll ever meet, and one of the smartest dudes when it came to football. Studied football, taught people things when he wrote about it, and he had the All Juice team. Guys that just bring it. All Juice team coming out of college and the NFL, and then he passed away.
That was Matt Derrick. I thought it was Matt Derrick. He loves the All Juice.
Yeah, right.
Who doesn't?
It's awesome stuff, and it goes to a great cause. You know, HBCU gets a portion of the proceeds that go for the All Juice team merch. Like, yeah, it's great. Here is DJ Humphries.
What have just the last 11 months been like for you?
Man, it's been interesting. It's been how do you say, like you find out stuff about yourself when you go through stuff like that. Like, I knew I was a tough guy already, but like having to go through those things and getting those, man, you had such a great career, man. What a run. Like, those texts was like really trying for me, and it was like, damn, people just assuming it's over because I'm hurt. You know what I mean? So that was probably the toughest part. Being injured and going through the injury and stuff, that was, I mean, it's football. You know, everybody gets hurt at some point, and you bounce back and you go through it. So that wasn't really ever in my mind, but like just the response and how people kind of perceive what was going on, it kind of caught me off guard. I think that was the toughest part about the whole thing, was kind of like, yo, people expect me to just like tuck it right now. Like, do you not, my personality must have not shown that like this is not who I am, you know what I mean? So I think that was like the toughest part of it, for real.
So DJ, what kept you going during the last 11 months?
Oh, definitely. I think that like more so for me, like I'm a competitor when it comes to like, oh, I can't do it. Okay, thanks. Like, I appreciate that. So like that kind of gave me that feeling in throughout the rehab. It's kind of like this. Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Like, I've never had to prove myself or show anything like that. You know what I mean? So that was a good feeling for me. I think it was probably one of the best things that could ever happen for my career, because I don't know how you gain hunger and like that fire over again when you're like bridge and you don't have the like, there's no worries. It's hard to like keep that fire if you're not competing for a championship every day. And aside from the fire that I have to just be the best player, but like that fire of like, I got something to prove and I got to go out and show it every day. When you start getting paid and become a vet, you kind of lose that part of it. So I don't know if I would have ever had anything happen to make that feeling come back and that fire come back, and I got to prove it come back. So I think it was good for me, honestly. Crazy to say, but I think it was.
Sam kind of asked my question.
How you feeling?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm in Kansas City, bro.
Yeah.
I'm pretty ecstatic. You know what I mean? I can't, don't get much better than this.
What's it been like getting welcomed to the group and kind of finding your way through the offense right now?
It's been dope. It's been really like kind of surprising how like welcoming and accepting and like everyone is. You know, I play offensive line, so we have a theory that like no one knows who we are. You know what I mean? So it's like when you come into the building, they're like, "Oh, OG, what's good?" Like they talk to me, I'm like, "Oh, what's up? What's up? I'm gonna appreciate you." Like everybody's excited for me to be here, and that's a really good feeling. Like coming from some place, you've been in one place for so long, and then you go to a new place and you're getting welcomed with open arms by all pro players. You know what I mean? It's not like you're getting welcomed with open arms by a bunch of slappies. It's like, yo, we need you. Like, please come and save us. It's like you're getting all pro guys' arms stretched out. Like, oh my God, we're so happy that you're here. And it's like, yo, this is a great feeling.
Nobody knows, obviously, your body, where you're at right now. How long, in your opinion, reasonably will it take for you to feel like, I'm ready to go?
I mean, my body's fine. I'm just here. Whenever they tell me that it's time to go, whenever Coach Reed says it's time to go, that's when I'm gonna go. But my body's fine.
Could that be as early as Friday or next week? Or?
I promise. If I had a crystal ball, I'd give it to you. I'd tell you. But I don't. Whenever he tell me a go time, I'm jumping off the shelf.
TJ, you may have spoken to this, but when you're hearing all that about people thinking you might just be done, what gave you the faith that, well, that's ridiculous? Like I'm going to be back.
Because I felt like I was putting myself in a position to go to the table. Like I knew that my contract was getting close to the end. My mind, aside from injury, that I'm preparing to get ready to go into a contract year, or we're finna do something this offseason. So then you get hurt and then you get released, and then the automatic response is like, oh, great year. So it's like my minds were two polar opposites of what the response that I was getting from people. I'm thinking that I'm still who I think I am. I know I am, and I'm finna get ready to get paid, and all this is finna go down, and then I get hurt, and it's like the world is like, hey, good job, man. Go hang out with your kids, coach soccer, do something like that. And it's like, nah, that's not. You clearly don't know me, who I am.
Can you just tell us a little bit about the process of coming to the Chiefs? How it unfolded and what makes you so excited to be here? It's probably obvious, but
honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first got released, I told my kids, and I told my kids like, "Yo, Dad's gonna get fired. Like, I'm not gonna be on the Cardinals anymore." Like, just to kind of, I didn't even know how to explain it to them. Just kind of give them a heads up before they went to school and their friends are telling them, because my son didn't even know the magnitude about like football and all that stuff. But he goes to school and he finds out what's going on like that, you know. So I wanted to give him a heads up, and my son Dash, immediate, no better eyelash, didn't care about me getting released. I really want you to go to Kansas City so you can play with Patrick Mahomes and you could probably win a Super Bowl. And I was like, yeah, son, thank you. Like, it was no, like, he didn't have a care about, like, what's going on. His automatic mind was like, you should go to the Chiefs. And I was like, from then on, the whole thing, everybody would say something here and then. I was like, my son said that's where I'm going, so I don't know, man. We'll see how it goes. So fast forward now, here we are, and I've been calling him every day like, man, you a trip, boy. You spoke it, boy.
We're gonna go last three here, Matt, Nate, and Nick.
He's 8. Yep. I have 8. My 8-year-old Dash, my 6-year-old Nova, my 15-month-old boy Day, and then my 2-month-old daughter Nelly. Yeah, I got a goof troop, man. We got a goof troop.
Hey, DJ, what's your sense of your role here? I mean, was your expectation to come in and start? Is it just to simply compete?
Football player. That's it. I got full faith in the fact that this organization knows what to do with football players and knows where to put them and put them in the roles that they need to be. All I got to do is go out there on the field and be the best version of myself every day. And Andy Reid and Coach Nagy and Coach Hitt gonna make sure I'm in the right spot where I'm supposed to be at and when I'm supposed to be there. So it ain't even that ain't even part of my job. I just go out there and block the end until they tell me it's time to go. So that's why I think that's my role. Play football, block the end.
And the Chiefs have a couple of young tackles too, as well, in Kingsley and Wanyang.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like there's a sense of leadership and mentorship that you can provide to those guys?
I don't know about like if I sense it, but it's just when I'm around young players, that's the role of football. That's how I was brought along with my older vets that took a liking to me. Is everything that I know on that football field, somebody showed me. None of us woke up in the O-line, woke up knowing how to take a pass set or block the end or do it. None of us woke up knowing how to do that stuff. So everything that we've learned is somebody gave it to us. So it's my responsibility to make sure I pass it. I can't let you do something that I know the solution to and keep watching you do it. And just keep letting you not know what's going on. That's not how I was brought up in football. That's not how my OGs did me in ball. They always pulled me to the side and showed me the game. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to pass the game on and make sure I leave it better than I find it.
Last two, Nate and then Nick.
DJ, I guess I have 2 questions really quick. Did you have any conversations with DeAndre about his experience with Kansas City before you joined?
Definitely.
And secondly, what is it when you initially, when you're going to play with Patrick Mahomes, just what goes through your mind?
Me and Hop definitely talked a couple times, and I had to tell him in the middle of it, like, hey, bro, you don't have to sell me on this thing, bro. Like, I don't need a sales pitch on the Kansas City Chiefs, bro.
He was trying, though.
He was trying to, yeah. He was trying to tell me, like, because he knew what the situation was, that I was talking to other teams and stuff like that. So he was trying to just, like, give me a real sense from a player perspective what it was like here. And I had to stop him in the middle of it, like, yo, bro, like, you ain't got to sell me, bud. I know what's going on over there, bud. I watch TV, so you ain't got to sell me on that.
Last one, Nick.
Bull, your just initial thoughts about having the opportunity to play with Patrick.
Me and my wife laughed about it. It's been a while since I've been in a situation where I didn't set the standard for the room or the building or what's going on. So being able to be around guys like Travis and Chris and Kelsey and Creed, all them dudes, it's like the level of expectation is already high when I came in the building. So I don't have to set a standard, or I just got to make sure I'm with the guys. I can't be down here because everybody's already up here. So I think that's my favorite part about it. That's the first thing I thought about. It's like, it's time to pull out the best version of ball, the best time of football right now, because this is limelight.
Last one, Nick.
Did you play with Juwan in college?
I missed him by a year. So my rookie year was his freshman year. Yep.
And DJ, for you, when you're waiting to get medically cleared and everything, how do you approach trying to be able to stay in condition and get in condition from a football perspective?
Man, honestly, I got to give a shout out to my guys at AMGD Sports. Those dudes, man, I mean, from Doug to Brian to CJ to Josh to my man K2, my boy, the PT that really we did everything together from day one to me getting released. I mean, those dudes never allowed me to, like, sink or be down on myself or anything like that. And they really got me through this thing, and they made sure that I kept my standard the whole time, even when I was not feeling good and all that stuff. They made sure that I lived up to who they thought I was every time, even until I got myself there mentally, and then we took it to the next level. So it was good. I got tougher. Yeah, I got tougher.
Thanks, DJ.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Where's this guy been all my life? Unbelievable. Was he created in a lab? Dude, I am all in on DJ Humphries, man. I need more DJ Humphries press conferences every week. Dude. I mean, the first answer when he started getting into, like, elaborating how he finds things out about himself based on texts he was getting from friends is like, wow, this guy's really, thoughtful and answering the questions. It's not just like, hey, here's what. Like, I know head coaches get introductory press conferences and you got to win the press conference, right? With the intro. Like, that's about as great of a winning a press conference of an introduction for a player in any local team that I can ever remember. That was unfreaking real.
That's a great example of shot in the arm.
No doubt. Like, seriously, that's a great point, man. He gets into the building and he's like, dude, I've got all of these people that have a standard that's already set. I don't have to then set the standard for everybody in the organization and all the players here as we go through coaching staff and GMs and regime change, and it's got to be me that's looked upon as the vet that's been here for 8 years, that I got to be the one that it establishes this is the standard to play at. I walk into Kansas City and you got Patrick and Travis and Chris and you got these guys and Joe and you got guys that have already established this, and all I got to do, I got to be up here. I got to just be there with the standard. I don't have to set it. And the motivation of, oh, you don't think I can do it? Oh, okay. Oh, no, you think my career is over? All right. And then when he talked about, like, saying that, he's a competitor and that motivation that's there. And he said, I think you can lose the edge, paraphrasing here. You sort of lose the edge when you get rich and you're a veteran and you've been established. You sort of lose that edge. But because of that, it helped him gain the hunger and the fire back to prove it. Like, vet and rich, you sort of lose it. And now, being in the building and people doubting him, there's that hunger and desire and fire to prove everybody wrong and to go win a Super Bowl. Then, of course, talking about, just being with the organization. Said, I'm in Kansas City, bro. I'm pretty ecstatic. It don't get much better than this. Like, all right, well, good God, man. Seriously? Like, and then DeAndre Hopkins tried to sell him. DeAndre Hopkins gave him the sales pitch to come to Kansas City because DJ Humphries was talking to other teams. And so DeAndre's reaching out.
They were teammates.
Yeah, in Arizona. So DeAndre's like, hey, he said he was trying to sell me. And I told him, like, no, bro, you don't have to sell me, man. You go and stop that. He goes, I watch TV. I know what's going on over there. You don't have to sell me on that, dude. I'm going to Kansas City because my son said it. When I got cut, my son said, I want you to go to Kansas City so you can play with Patrick Mahomes and win a Super Bowl. And now his 8-year-old son, Dash, he manifested it. Same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. Manifested, put it out there. Put it out there in the ether, Spoke it into existence. He's got 4 kids. Got a goof troop. Dude, I am all in.
He was awesome, man.
Dude, and he said, whenever Reed said go, I go. My body's ready to go. Whenever coach says go, I go. And then what are they getting? What's the expectation of what your role is going to be? And he said, football player. Football player. He goes, I'm pretty sure this organization knows what to do with football players. As in, they're pretty good. So Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and Andy Heck, yeah, they'll figure out how to use a football player. That's my job, football player. Go block whoever until they tell me to stop. So that's my role as football player, and I'm pretty sure I can trust this organization that they know what the heck they're doing.
Also, I think he let this one slip, but the welcome where all pros are sticking their hands out saying, quote, thanks for saving us?
He said it's not like some goof troop or some what do you say? It's not like some slappies that are saying, "Oh, thanks for saving us."
Yes.
So he said it's not like that, but you got these vets that are like, "Hey, man, welcome. We need you.
Right.
You know, welcome. We need you, dude. Let's go." So it's a good point. It's a good point because he pointed out that it's like, well, you get to a new team and there might be some slappies that are like, "Hey, welcome." You know, he's like, "No, these are veteran, all-pro guys that are like reaching out, open arms. Welcome into the organization, man. Welcome into the Standard." And how soon can you play?
I'm pretty sure he's also a bit of an enforcer when he was with Kyler. We already have Trey Smith, but it's nice to always have as many as possible on the. Your offensive line sets the tone for your football team. However they act, however they are. Look at the Lions.
Yeah.
Look at the Ravens. Look at the Eagles. I mean, it's your football team is based off your offensive line. You're going to be a punch people in the mouth team.
Yeah, and I think him coupled with DeAndre Hopkins. You know, we've talked about this, and he mentioned it. Like when you're a vet and you're rich, you got a lot of money, sometimes you can lose that drive and that hunger, but you want to compete for championships. And if you're in Arizona and you're rich and you're a veteran and you're not really competing for championships, what's really the drive and the hunger there? Because you've been paid. Your family's set up for life. You've been around the block, you know, kind of going through the daily grind. It's the rat race. Here we go. Go to work, work all day, clock out, slide down the dinosaur, go home. And do that every day. But when you've won back-to-back Super Bowls and you've got a team of guys that have won Super Bowls, every once in a while you might need some fresh blood to get in there, to have that urgency to get what is eluded them when they've been in the league for 8, 10, 12 years. So that fresh blood, because guys on this team playing in the third year that only know winning Super Bowls. That's all they know. Then you get Hopkins coming in and he's like, man, I can't believe it. You know, my mom and I, we were envisioning this. This is what we dreamed of, is this opportunity. And now DJ Humphries. Like, sometimes getting that fresh blood in there. Veteran guys, right? Star players that are like, you don't know what it's like, man. Here, what is going to drive me the rest of the year is to get what you guys have. Because you don't know how difficult it is to get that. Especially if you're a younger guy in your third or fourth year. Because if you're in your fourth year, 2 of the 3 years you've played in the NFL, you've got Super Bowl rings. If you're in your third year, that's all you've got is Super Bowl rings. I've been playing this long and I don't have one. Not even in the playoffs. Barely. So yeah, man, I am all in on DJ Humphries, dude. That was amazing. If you missed any part of that, check out the podcast, man, because he was good. That's a fan favorite immediately, and I ain't ever seen him play in a Chiefs uniform because he hasn't yet. Or put on a Chiefs uniform, but I'm ready to go. I'm all in on DJ Humphries. More Zone next. Here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. Great stuff, man. I am so glad we got to hear from DJ Humphries today. If you missed any of that, please go check it out. You will not be sorry. You know, sometimes at press conferences we don't get much, but that was just great.
We haven't had your morning coffee either.
I mean,
you could just replay that 7 a.m.
So awesome. I might listen to it again tomorrow. I might listen to it on the way home. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just so good. And I hope he's as good of a player as the press conferences are, you know. So, because if this turkey smells or tastes anywhere near how good it looks, I think we're all in for a treat. I told you we put it in too early. What you crying for? I don't think that's going to be DJ Humphries as the turkey.
Looks like a scene from Alien.
Yeah, that's right. There's the heart. I don't think that's going to be the case for DJ Humphries, but if his play is anywhere near what that press conference is like, I think we're all in for a treat. No doubt about that, but go check that out. Deion Sanders was not happy with the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award finalists. The Jim Thorpe Award is for the best defensive back in America. Jahdae Barron from Texas, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, and Malachi Starks from Georgia were the three players that are up for the Jim Thorpe Award for the best defensive back in America. Deion Sanders not happy about that. Why is Travis Hunter not up for the best defensive back in America? The Chuck Bednarik Award is for the best defensive player. The Defensive Player of the Year is the Chuck Bednarik Award winner. The three finalists are Caleb Downs for Ohio State, Abdul Carter for Penn State, and Travis Hunter for Colorado. So riddle me this. Travis Hunter is one of the three finalists for the best defensive player in America. But the Jim Thorpe Award panelists didn't think he was one of the best defensive backs in America. And you might say, well, yeah, but they probably didn't want him to be up for the Bednarik and the Jim Thorpe Award. It's kind of like the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL. Okay, cool. Well, if I look through the Bednarik Award finalists, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Caleb Downs. Now I look through the Jim Thorpe finalists, Jahdae Barron, Malachi Starks, and Caleb Downs. Oh, wait, Caleb Downs is up for the best defensive back in America and the Defensive Player of the Year, because that makes sense. If he's the best defensive player, then he's one of the three best players at his own position. Travis Hunter's also up for the Biletnikoff Award, which is the most outstanding receiver. He's also up for the Maxwell Award, which is the Player of the Year. He'll be up for the Heisman as well. But yeah, I'm with Deion. It makes no sense. Hunter's going to be fine. But it's like, most outstanding offensive player. Travis Hunter's up for that. Okay, it makes sense. Best wide receiver, Travis Hunter's up to that. Okay, makes sense, yes. Because if he's the best offensive player, he certainly should be one of the best at his own position. Best defensive player, Travis Hunter. Best defensive back, not Travis Hunter. I'm not sure, whatever. Not really going to matter to them, but, you know, I'm with Deion on that beef. That makes no sense. Also, should point out, Lance Leipold and Dean Miller reached out to Deion and Shedeur Sanders, and Miller wanted to offer his apology to Shedeur Sanders. Deion said, look, he's going to apologize, and Shedeur's going to accept it. You know why? Because it hasn't bothered him. Shedeur's like, it's playing football. It's football. It happens. A lot of people felt like that was a dirty hit. And obviously he wants to reach out and say that no harm intended on the hit low to Shedeur Sanders. But Lance Leipold also reaching out to Deion Sanders. But Deion saying Shedeur's fine with it. He'll accept the apology because he's good with it. You know, almost like no apology needed. But you do appreciate him wanting to reach out and say, you know, man, I wasn't trying to injure you. I think there's a different level there. Like it was, I would describe it as this. It was cavalier and irresponsible at worst, or at best. Cavalier and irresponsible at best. It was intentionally trying to hurt him at worst. I don't think it's the last part, but I do think there's a level of when you go low like that, if the leg was in the wrong spot, then that could have been bad. But I really don't think he was trying to take out and blow out his knee. I don't think that was the case. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up the show next. All right, wrapping up the show here. Final show of the week is the Chiefs get underway against the Raiders on Friday. Thanksgiving tomorrow. We'll have the triple header for you right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm going to go, I'm like 30-13 Chiefs over Raiders. And it's sitting here going like, oh, no, you can't take the Chiefs to cover. But I feel different about this one than I did the Panthers. I picked the Panthers to cover against the Chiefs last week. I feel different about this one. 30-13.
Yeah.
What do you
if
think?
Everyone's saying one thing, usually the opposite happens.
What are you saying? What are you thinking?
I'll go 27-10.
27-10. 30-13. 27-10. We both have it as a 17-point victory covering the spread. I'm not going to bet it. I will not bet the Chiefs to cover the spread. No. I'll throw them as the money line into some parlays. But, hey, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. We will talk to you on Monday.